Chapter 2068. After all, the fox hunting organization was the largest organization of thieves in the world. Moreover, there were at least 1,000 thieves in the fox hunting organization. Every single one of them was the cream of the crop in the world of thieves. Yun Jian could recite the information of anyone who had some international reputation. Shen Qingjiang's master, the man named Lam, was actually at the bottom of the hierarchy in the fox hunting organization. Otherwise, the real top figures in the fox hunting organization would never have taken someone like Shen Qingjiang as their disciple. Yun Jian's words were like the worst nightmare in Shen Qingjiang's ears. To Shen Qingjiang, having his master as the master thief of the fox hunting organization, Lam, was the most honorable thing for Shen Qingjiang. Shen Qingjiang didn't even hesitate to hide this layer of his identity. He wanted to wait for the right time to reveal this layer of his identity and surprise the group of girls around him. Then, their impression of him would rise sharply. However, Shen Qingjiang had never expected Yun Jian to appear. Judging from Yun Jian's tone, could she be even more powerful than the fox hunting organization? Who the hell are you? Shen Qingjiang looked at Yun Jian and asked in a daze. The more he wanted to know about Yun Jian's identity, the more he wanted to understand it. If she was not a master thief, why did she have such frightening skills? Liang Xiumin had naturally heard her father mention Yun Jian's identity as an advanced special forces soldier. Liang Xiumin did not say a word at this moment. She hugged the quilts and stood where she was, waiting for Yun Jian. A trace of doubt flashed across Mu Yu's eyes, but she did not say anything. When Shen Qingjiang asked the last question, Yun Jian had already turned and walked toward Liang Xiumin. Halfway there, she stopped and turned sideways, exposing her beautiful side profile to Shen Qingjiang and the group of girls standing beside her. The red arc of her lips curved slightly. The next second, she gave a mesmerizing smile and said, "I'm the owner of the sports car design you stole." It was hard to tell what she meant at first, but if one thought about it carefully, they would be horrified. "I stole that design from New Cruise, so its owner should be the director of New Cruise." Could she be? She's the director of New Cruise? Shen Qingjiang thought about it carefully and finally guessed this. He shouted these words in front of the group of female students around him in horror. When he lifted his head to look for Yun Jian, Liang Xiumin and Mu Yu, he realized that Yun Jian and the other two were long gone. In the field of Wuxia Primary School, Shen Qingjiang, who had lost all his face but was in a mess at the moment, as well as the doubtful female students, were left dumbfounded. At that moment, Yun Jian's group, Yun Jian's, and the girls' class. The classroom here was very shabby. The classroom was also a mud house built with simple mud. The door of the classroom was a wooden door that had not been painted. The tables and benches were broken, making creaking noises when one sat on them or placed their hands on them. Just the sight of it was enough to scare one. It was a miracle that one did not fall off from sitting on the benches. There was not much light in the class, but the children were studying seriously. They did not even notice Yun Jian's group entering the class. Lu Ying was skinny and not tall. She sat in the front row. She was an 11-year-old child, but due to her stunted growth, she looked like an 8 or 9-year-old. Her thin clothes covered her body, and the cold wind that blew into the room from outside the window made her shiver from the cold. Chapter 2069. Of course, Lu Ying was not the only child who was shivering from the cold. A large group of children in the classroom were all wearing thin clothes, huddling in the thin clothes that could not even keep them warm. At that moment, every child maintained the same action, which was to flip through the colorful textbooks under their hands, unwilling to let go. These textbooks were bought from a donation program organized by a few universities in Jianghu City and brought to the poor mountainous area of Wuxia as a gift for these poor children. The children had never seen such colorful textbooks before and were so excited that they did not even want to raise their heads. "It's the big sister and big brother who gave us the colorful textbooks." Yun Jian had just walked into the classroom. Even the teacher standing on the podium did not notice her and Liang Xiumin's arrival. A mischievous little boy suddenly shouted. Then, the children sitting in the classroom saw this and carefully took out their folded paper from their drawers, running towards Yun Jian and the other two. Thank you big sister and big brother for the colorful textbooks. We really like them, but we don't have anything to give them to big sister and big brother, so we folded them ourselves. We hope you like them. A cute little girl stretched out her dirty little hands, holding a folded paper crane with both hands, and handed it to Yunjian. In her clear eyes, there was an innocence that the children in the city would never have. The little girl's hands were dirty, and there was a stench on her body, as if she had not bathed in a long time. But Yunjian did not say anything and took the paper crane from the little girl, giving the little girl a smile. Thank you. The paper crane was very light, and the origami was very tattered. It was obvious that the little girl had hidden this origami for a long time, folding and unfolding it again and again. Now, the little girl had given her favorite treasure to her. It's good that big sister likes it. The little girl stuck out her tongue playfully. These children used origami to fold many animals and gave them to Yunjian, Liang Shumin, and Mu Yu. Although the things were small and did not have much value, they were mixed with the children's thoughts. This was the closest and most authentic gift that the children from the countryside could give, and money could not buy. They might not have the money to return better gifts, but the children's gifts were one of a kind. Children, there are many big brothers and sisters over there. Give them all the origami you worked so hard to make last class. At this time, the teacher saw Shen Qingjiang and many university students from the city standing on the field through the window. The only female teacher other than the principal gestured to the children. Presents for big brother and big sister. All the children ran happily to the playground. Big sister, come with us. The little girl who gave Yunjian the paper crane just now pulled Yunjian's hand and ran towards the sports field. Seeing this, Liang Xiumin and Mu Yu followed Yunjian. At that time, some children had already found their big brothers and sisters who hadn't received any gifts and gave them the hand-folded paper that they had painstakingly cut. The university students who came from the city to teach took the origami paper that the children had cut with great difficulty. This was a beautiful scene. Even Yunjian could not help but smile. She had never known that in a place so poor that even food and clothing were a problem, there was such a group of kind and innocent children. Children might live in the lowest level of the world and not be liked. But they had the innocence and kindness that ordinary children did not have. Liang Xiumin was touched. The high and mighty young miss didn't think it was dirty or ugly. She took the paper cut from a child. What the hell is this? It's so ugly. Don't touch my hands with your dirty hands. How long has it been since you took a shower? It stinks, it stinks. Get out of my way. I don't want this cheap product. A shout of abuse sounded. On the other side, an elegant and beautiful girl with a slender figure was standing there. She scolded the child who handed her the origami paper, then avoided the child with clear eyes and a face full of anticipation as if avoiding the plague. The girl who scolded the child was none other than Wu Zhizhi, who had scolded Yunjian when Yunjian asked Shen Qingjiang for the design on the bus. Chapter 2070. Wu Zhizhi looked at the child's outstretched hand as if she had seen a river beast. However, unlike the river beast, Wu Zhizhi scolded and retreated in disgust. The child, who had reached out to Wu Zhizhi and wanted to hand her the folded paper that she had painstakingly cut, only to be treated like this by Wu Zhizhi. She froze in the same position as when she reached out her hand to hand over the folded paper. Like the other children, this child was dirty and looked like he had not bathed in a long time. Wuzhen was not a coastal area and water was scarce. No family dared to bathe in a basin full of water. In that case, it wouldn't be a problem of cleanliness anymore. Even whether they would starve to death or die of thirst would become a problem. Therefore, the children here would at most use a small handful of water to wipe their bodies during the festival. They did not dare to use it too much. The other university students who came with Yunjian would not say such things in front of the child even if they despised the child for being dirty and smelly. Did Liang Xiumin not despise it? Liang Xiumin, who had been spoiled since she was young, despised it more than anyone else. However, she would not say such things in front of the child. She would not hurt the child's young heart in such a cruel way. After Wu Zizi's heartless words left her mouth, everyone around her was stunned. The child was also stunned. Wu Zizi, what are you saying? How can you say such things in front of such a young child? Even a girl who came with Wu Zizi could not stand it anymore and started to criticize Wu Zizi. However, before the girl could finish speaking, Wu Zizi spoke first. I didn't say anything that I shouldn't say. Am I not telling the truth? Moreover, my father is the richest man in Jianghu. If you let me come into contact with these filthy people, what should I do if I get a disease? My father reminded me before we came. A rich young lady like me won't stoop to your level. I have to protect myself. As Wu Zizi spoke, she raised her head proudly and talked in a circle in front of Yun Jian. In fact, Wu Zizi was already displeased with Yun Jian when they were on the bus. Shen Qingjiang's boasting made Wu Zizi deeply believe in the cult. She believed everything he said. Yun Jian had treated Shen Qingjiang like that just now. Wu Zizi had long wanted to find an opportunity to make it difficult for Yun Jian. Even saying those cruel words to the child just now was just to draw out the following words. When Yun Jian heard that her father was the richest man in Jianghu City, she seemed to blink her eyes. Wu Zizi thought that Yun Jian was shocked by her family's wealth. Thinking of this, Wu Zizi became even more smug. She raised her head and looked sideways at Yun Jian, then continued to speak to everyone with a smug expression. Before I came here, my dad donated 100,000 yuan to your poor mountainous area. I didn't do anything wrong. Logically speaking, you Wuxian people should be the ones to treat me well. After all, my dad donated so much money. I stayed the night yesterday. Not only was the accommodation terrible, even the food was so bad that I couldn't swallow it. Wu Zizi's words seemed to imply that since her dad had donated so much money, the people of Wuxian had to treat her differently from other university students. At this point, the people around them fell silent. The child who was rejected by Wu Zizi seemed to be frightened. He did not dare to speak for a long time. Then, Wu Zizi looked sideways at Yun Jian and said, You were so smug in front of us just now. If you're so capable, why are you still pretending to be the director of New Cruise? How much did you donate when the school organized the donation back then? Yun Jian was not in the school when the donation was organized. I didn't donate. Yun Jian was not afraid and replied directly. Oh, ha ha ha. You even made me think that you're the director of New Cruise. What a joke. Qingjiang, did you see that? She was just trying to scare us. So King shameless. Wu Zizi became even more smug after hearing that. The people around them did not dare to say anything. Even the female teacher from Wuxian looked embarrassed. However, just as Wu Zizi thought that she was invincible, she saw Yun Jian take out her phone from her pocket in front of everyone. Wu Zizi was stunned. Yun Jian, who was standing in front of Wu Zizi, smiled and said, Thanks for the reminder. I wasn't in the school when the donation was made. It was clearly a thank you, but Wu Zizi shuddered after hearing it. Instantly, Yun Jian's smile faded. She dialed a number expressionlessly in front of everyone. Before the call was connected, she continued to speak to Wu Zizi. However, your father is the richest man in Jianghu. Donating a mere 100,000 yuan is too petty. Just as she finished speaking, Yun Jian's call was connected. Then, in front of Wu Zizi, Shen Qingjiang, and everyone else, Yun Jian spoke to the person on the other end of the phone. Her cold but commanding words echoed throughout the hall, indirectly giving Wu Zizi a loud slap. Zhang Jifan, in 3 days, donate 1 billion yuan to Xixiang organization in my name as the director of New Cruise and send it to the poor mountainous areas. Chapter 2071. Without waiting for a reply, Yun Jian hung up and put her phone back into her pocket. It was as if nothing had happened. However, everyone's expression changed drastically at Yun Jian's words. Especially Wu Zizi, who had purposely picked on Yun Jian earlier. After hearing what Yun Jian said, Wu Zizi's expression changed from its initial arrogance to its darkest point. Why, you're really New Cruise's D director? The exclamation did not come from Wu Zizi's mouth. Wu Zizi was so shocked that she could not speak. How would she dare to speak? The person who spoke was none other than Shen Qingjiang. Did that mean that Yun Jian had heard him stealing something from New Cruz? Was that why she had attacked him? Shen Qingjiang was both afraid and terrified. He suddenly recalled that if Yun Jian was New Cruz's director, based on the company's current development, it was not unbelievable that his master's fox hunting organization would give her face. However, was Yun Jian really New Cruz's director? Wu Zizi couldn't say a word for a long time. Finally, when she saw that everyone was staring at her, she stammered, "You. Look. What are you looking at?" She said she's New Cruz's director, so be it. There's no signal here. Maybe she made a fake call just now. After saying that, Wu Zizi came to her senses. That was right. There was no signal in Wuzhen. Yun Jian's call just now must have been an act. Wu Zizi's confidence grew as she thought about that. She lifted her head again to look at Yun Jian and swore. "I was wondering why you hung up after saying that. It must be because you didn't make the call. If you call without signal, the other party won't even pick up. Ha ha ha. How dare you pretend to be New Cruz's director? What a joke." Wu Zizi's voice grew louder and louder. However, the moment Wu Zizi finished speaking, the only female teacher in Wuzhen Primary School, other than the principal, pursed her lips and added, "There's basically no signal in Wuzhen, but there's a small shop next to Wuzhen Primary School. There's a phone installed in that shop. That's the only phone in Wuzhen, so when the school has good signal, you can make calls from here." The female teacher's words made Wu Zizi, who had thought that what she said made sense, instantly shut her mouth. "When you came over this morning, the principal told me to remember to tell you about this, but I forgot to tell you. Student, I didn't say anything about this. How did you know that there was a signal here?" As the female teacher spoke, she turned to look at Yun Jian and asked. A normal person would not try every place after coming to Wuzhen the day before, since there was no signal, they would not try everywhere. After all, mobile phones in this era were not smartphones. There were not many fun games. At most, one could make a call. There was no difference whether there was a signal or not. If it was smartphones nowadays, people would definitely run to Wu Town to ask if there was any signal. Even if there was no signal in every place, they would still try it. After hearing the female teacher's words, everyone turned to look at Yun Jian. Yun Jian, who stood where she was, narrowed her eyes and gave a half-smile before she spoke up. "Of course I saw the phone in the small shop near the school. If there was no signal, the phone wouldn't be placed at the counter. Since it was placed at the most obvious counter, it must be to attract customers to make calls there. Of course, there would be a signal, eh?" Chapter 2072. Yun Jian's words were very logical. Actually, many people could analyze it, but no one was as observant as Yun Jian. Take Wu Zizi for example. She had been acting like a spoiled brat since the beginning. Whenever she caught something that she thought made sense, she would assume that she was right. She had no ability to analyze logically at all. People like her would usually be in the worst situation after the truth was revealed. As expected, after the female teacher and Yun Jian finished speaking, Wu Zizi could not say anything else. 3 days. Let's wait and see. I'd like to see if the people from New Cruz will come with 1 billion. She knew it was impossible even if she thought about it. 1 billion. That was not a small number. Even if it was a huge international corporation like New Cruz that stood on the international stage, it was almost impossible for them to fork out 1 billion yuan. 1 billion yuan was on a completely different level compared to the 100,000 yuan that her family could fork out. Could Yun Jian really do that? After Wu Zizi said that to Yun Jian, she was too embarrassed to stay there any longer. Therefore, she turned around to call her friend, Kai Xinyuan, who was so fat that her body would jiggle with every few steps she took. She left the place pathetically. After Wu Zizi and her friend fled, Shen Qingjiang also left with the group of girls in a panic. It was only when the group was far away that Liang Shumin looked at Yun Jian and exclaimed excitedly. Yun Jian, you were so cool just now. Haha. Didn't you see how green that girl's face was? I've never seen a rich girl who likes to throw a tantrum more than I do. I just can't stand her. That felt good. That felt so good. Liang Shumin almost clapped and cheered as she spoke. On the other hand, Mu Yu was very rational. He pursed his lips and tilted his head to look at Liang Shumin. He then turned to Yun Jian and said, You really pissed them off just now. I agree that you should take them down a notch. How dare you say something like that in front of children? But can you really get New Cruise to donate 1 billion yuan to the children in the poor mountainous areas? Are you really the director of New Cruise? Clearly, no matter how vivid Yun Jian's story was, no one would believe it without evidence. After all, this was too unreasonable. Hearing this, Liang Shumin also turned to look at Yun Jian, only to see Yun Jian, who was standing in front of them, squinting slightly and saying, Take a guess. The people who were born and raised in Wuzhen had never left the mountains. Even the female teacher, who had been teaching in Wuzhen for many years, had been isolated from the world for many years. Therefore, they had no idea what New Cruise was. The children didn't know how much 1 billion was either. The children here generally learned slower than the children in the city. Without the guidance of a master teacher, no matter how hard they worked, they couldn't compare to the children in the city. Big sister, can I take you to herd the lambs after school? Big sister is so pretty, the lambs will definitely like you very much. The child, who had just been scolded by Wu Zhizhi in that tone, walked to Yun Jian shakily and said to Yun Jian. She was a very cute little girl, but because she hadn't bathed for a long time, she reeked of sweat and her face and hands were dirty. After being scolded by Wu Zhizhi, the little girl dared not touch Yun Jian's hand, afraid that Yun Jian would despise her too. Then it's a deal. You'll take us to herd the lambs after school. Before Yun Jian could reply, Liang Shumin responded to the cute little girl first. Liang Shumin was stunned when she saw that everyone was looking at her. She then coughed twice and looked to the side. She said something that didn't match her heart, I'm sorry. Ahem. I'm not the one who wants to herd the lambs with you. I saw that you wanted Yun Jian to go, so I agreed on Yun Jian's behalf. I'm just going to check it out along the way. This young lady's arrogance was unparalleled. When the children heard Liang Shumin's words, they all giggled. What are you laughing at? Liang Shumin's face was stiff, but she didn't look fierce at all. Big sister, you're much cuter than those sisters who left just now. A naughty little boy put his hands around his mouth and shouted loudly. The scene was peaceful. The little girl who had invited Yun Jian to herd the lambs was called Xing Zi by everyone. This naughty little boy was called He Qifang. The group of children immediately started playing with Liang Shumin. Liang Shumin's arrogant temper was completely worn out. At 3:30 in the afternoon, after the children had finished school, Yun Jian, the group of children, and Liang Shumin were walking to a place where they grazed the lambs. In the end, one of the children forgot to bring home the textbook for homework. It was too slow for the child to go back and get it, and it was too dangerous for him to walk alone. Yun Jian let the group go to the hill where the lambs were grazed first, and she rushed back to school to get it. Just as she arrived at the child's classroom, she suddenly heard two strange voices. Ah, it's here. We won't be discovered here, right? Gentler, Qingjiang, it's so comfortable. This was a woman's voice. Everyone's gone. It's so exciting to do it in the classroom. Damn B**tch, come out. This was a man's voice. Hearing this, Yun Jian's eyes narrowed slightly. TSK, she didn't need to look to know that the owners of these two voices were Wu Zhizhi and Shen Qingjiang. Chapter 2073. Shen Qingjiang used these vulgar words to shout at Wu Zhizhi, and even used his hand to smack Wu Zhizhi's but a few times. That strength, it did not seem like he was flirting, but more like he was hitting someone. But Yun Jian did not see any of this. When she heard the commotion, she walked into the other classroom where Shen Qingjiang and Wu Zhizhi were having an affair. She took the child's textbook from the classroom and left the school. Yun Jian did not have the hobby of stealing other people's affairs. Yun Jian quickly caught up with the group of children. The sun had set, and on the not-too-steep hill, the children were herding the sheep, letting Yun Jian and Liang Shumin touch the newborn lambs. They were all so happy that they did not want to go home. "Sister, look, the lambs love you." Xing Zi squatted in front of Yun Jian and Liang Shumin, holding a lamb in her arms, and said with a smile. On that dirty face, there was the innocence of a child. The lamb was not an adult, but a newborn lamb that could already walk. It also had the appearance of an adult lamb, but it was small and cute. Bah! The lamb turned its head like a chicken pecking at rice to Yun Jian, and bleated. On this hill, there were people herding cows and sheep, and a large group of ducks and chickens running around chasing each other. Although it was noisy, Yun Jian felt a sense of tranquility. That was a sense of tranquility in the heart. "Sister, do you want to hold the lamb?" Xing Zi asked as she looked at Yun Jian with her large black eyes, holding the lamb in her arms. Yun Jian nodded. Xing Zi passed the lamb into Yun Jian's arms. The lamb was very obedient, and stayed in Yun Jian's arms without making a sound or moving. It was very obedient. "Sister, look, this lamb loves you so much." Xing Zi shouted happily, as if she had discovered a new world. Evening passed quickly, and in the blink of an eye, the sky was about to turn dark. Everyone returned to Wuzhen the way they came, and then took a detour to go home. "Do you have any dreams?" Yun Jian suddenly asked. She still had a long way to go. She still had to deal with the mysterious man and the reverse emperor organization. He couldn't stop leading the Kosha mercenaries forward, or there would be thousands of reverse emperors rising in the future. Then what about this group of innocent children? What were their dreams? Xing Zi, He Qifang, Lu Ying, and the other children were silent for a while. In the next second, the group of children spoke resolutely one after another. "Our dream is to leave the mountains." "That's right. The teacher said that as long as you study hard, you will be able to walk out of the mountain." "I want to see the outside world." He wanted to see the outside world. After the last child finished speaking, everyone fell silent. It was such a small wish, but for these children, it was harder than ascending to the heavens. They did not have great ambitions. Their only wish was to walk out of the mountains and see the outside world. At this moment, Yun Jian didn't know what to say. Perhaps some people would say that she had the ability to let these children see the outside world. But Yun Jian wouldn't do that. The outside world was not as beautiful as the children imagined. The children would understand when they left the mountains with their own strength. If they couldn't leave the mountains with their own strength, it would be better for them to keep their innocent hearts forever. When they came down from the mountains, there was still a trace of afterglow in the sky. The dim orange afterglow reflected on the clouds. It was very beautiful. "Hey, that's," as soon as they came down from the mountains, Miyu saw a girl sitting on the stairs. The girl was surrounded by a group of people, and she was talking about something. The girl was leaning on another girl's shoulder, and tears were flowing down her face. "It's the girl who tried to jump off the cliff just now." Yun Jian walked past Mu Yu and Liang Shumin and said, "You're right. She wouldn't jump off the cliff." "How did you know?" Mu Yu was surprised for a moment. Yun Jian, who was walking in front of them, turned her head sideways, and said something that Mu Yu didn't understand. "Her eyes can tell me everything I want to know." Chapter 2074. Her words lagged behind for a long time. It turned out that Mu Xiao couldn't figure out the meaning of Yun Jian's words even after thinking for a long time. In the end, she couldn't figure it out and simply stopped thinking about it. Yun Jian didn't know whether the two old ruffians were dead or not. In the next 2 days, Yun Jian and the other college students began to teach the children officially. Before that, it was worth mentioning that the quilts that Yun Jian and Liang Shumin bought for Lu Ying and Lu Shijie scared them. Since their mother left, there was no money left to change the quilts at home. Therefore, the quilts that Yun Jian and Liang Shumin used to cover them were dirty and smelly. After Lu Ying and Lu Shijia came to their senses, they were so grateful to Yun Jian and Liang Shumin that they shed tears. In the end, they were amused by Liang Shumin, who didn't know how to speak, and laughed through their tears. "What are you crying for? A few quilts made you cry like this. I'll buy 100 quilts tomorrow and teach you how to cry." In the next 2 days, Yun Jian didn't teach anything. She just followed the children. This volunteer teaching activity in the countryside was organized by Jianghu Normal University. To put it bluntly, Yun Jian and the others came to experience the atmosphere of the poor mountainous area. The college students of Normal University would be teachers in the future. Therefore, they came here to experience the feeling of being a teacher in advance. As for Yun Jian and the other students from other schools, they were considered as substitutes. After all, although Yun Jian and the others were not students of Normal University, they all had good grades. That was why they could come here. Of course, Liang Shumin was not included. It was 3:30 in the afternoon. Yun Jian had just eaten an orange given by a child who said that it was grown at home. It was sweet and delicious. After eating the orange, her hands were sticky, so Yun Jian went out of the classroom to wash her hands. On the way back, she heard the principal of Wuxia Primary School say to the only female teacher in Wuxia Primary School. The 4, 6, and 6-year-old children were brought to the outdoor class by the college students. When the principal asked, the female teacher answered honestly, "Yes, principal." "Then you have to follow them and keep an eye on them. I heard that there are often cases of children being kidnapped in broad daylight in the nearby towns. Many children have gone missing. Hurry up and go outside to look after the children. Our Wu town has no law and order to begin with. Human traffickers always pick places like ours to attack. There are security guards in the big city. Hurry up and follow them outside," the principal instructed. But everything the principal said was for the sake of the children. "Yes, principal, I'll go right away." The female teacher hurriedly ran out. Yun Jian had just walked past the principal and the female teacher. There were 2 classes in Wuxia. The 1st, 2nd, and 3rd graders were in one class, while the 4th, 5th, and 6th graders were in another class. Lu Ying was in the 4th, 5th, and 6th grades. Last time, the ones who brought Yun Jian, Liang Shumin, and the others to herd the sheep on the mountain were the students in the 4th, 5th, and 6th grades. Yun Jian had just passed by the principal and the female teachers when she was stopped by the elegant and beautiful Wu Zhizhi with a sneer on her face. "Today's the 3rd day. You said you wanted new crews to donate 1 billion RMB. It's almost evening now. Where are the people from new crews?" Wu Zhizhi was all smiles as if she could already see Yun Jian making a fool of herself. "Today's not over yet," Yun Jian replied. After that, she walked past Wu Zhizhi and headed inside. However, just as she was about to enter the classroom, a female teacher who had rushed back from afar cried out at the entrance. "Oh no! The children! The children have really been kidnapped. Principal! 5 of our children have been kidnapped into a black van. Hurry up and get the people in town to save them." Just as the female teacher found the children, she saw a group of masked people dragging the children into a black van. The female teacher tried to stop them but was punched. Ignoring the pain, she ran back and yelled for help. Just as she reached Yun Jian's side, Yun Jian's eyes flickered. She grabbed the female teacher. "What's going on? The children have been kidnapped by a group of people. What should we do? What should we do?" The female teacher was so flustered that her face turned pale. She did not even notice that she was holding a card written in blood. Yun Jian took the card from the female teacher right in front of the smug Wu Zhizhi. There were 2 words written in fresh blood on the card: "Reverse Emperor." Seeing that, Yun Jian's eyes darkened. She was as cold as ice in February. In front of Wu Zhizhi and the female teacher, she spoke calmly as usual. "They've been kidnapped by the assassin organization. You won't be able to catch up to them. Chapter 2075. The name, Reverse Emperor, on the card was enough to prove that the kidnapper was from Reverse Emperor. As for the female teacher and the principal, even if they gathered everyone in Wu Town, they wouldn't be able to catch up to Reverse Emperor's black van. After all, Reverse Emperor was an assassin organization that was only second to the Kosha mercenaries and Hun. They even dared to declare war against the Kosha mercenaries and Hun. After Reverse Emperor went out on a mission, they would leave a card written in blood. At the bottom of the card, there would be a small line of words. That small line of words was the code name of the assassin or agent who went out on a mission. As expected, Yun Jian found a small line of words on the card. There were only 3 words on the card: African leopard. The kidnapper is the 5th-ranked assassin in the international assassin ranking, African leopard. Before the female teacher and Wu Zhizhi could react, Yun Jian raised her head to look at them. Yun Jian added, "You won't be able to catch up to them. Even if you do, you will be killed immediately." What Yun Jian was doubtful about was why Reverse Emperor would send such a character to a poor mountainous area like Wu Town to kidnap people. However, when she saw the words African leopard on the card, all her doubts were cleared. "Their target is me," Yun Jian said as she walked towards the classroom. "Wait. What are you talking about? You were the chairman of New Crews before, and now you're talking about some assassin organization. Are you messing with us? Let me tell you, you can't be so selfish. Now that the children are kidnapped, you're still not letting the people in Wuzhen rescue them? You're doing this on purpose. Why are you so involved in this?" Seizing the chance to accuse Yun Jian, Wu Zhizhi rambled on incessantly. When she saw that Yun Jian was walking towards the classroom, she screamed even louder. She even tried to pounce on Yun Jian as if she was going to stop Yun Jian from leaving. When the female teacher heard Yun Jian's words, she was stunned, but she still ran to find him. Ever since the female teacher's terrified voice had been heard, the surrounding people had been drawn over. At this moment, the dozens of university students who came from the university town of Jianghu City to teach in Wuzhen were all near Wuzhen Primary School. When they heard the commotion, they all ran over. "I think you're the one who wants to kill the child. Not allowed to save people? How can someone like you be the chairman of New Crews? What a joke," Wu Zhizhi said and was about to pounce on Yun Jian to stop her from leaving. However, Yun Jian dodged Wu Zhizhi's attempt to pounce on her from behind and walked into the classroom in a few steps. "Principal. Let's call for help to save the children. If the children are taken away, it's my responsibility. Save the children. Save the child." The female teacher had already called the principal out. The 2 of them were about to rush out of Wuzhen Primary School. The female teacher was trembling violently and the principal was in shock as well. However, he could not give up. He still had to save the children. What's going on? Shen Qingjiang, Liang Shumin, Mu Yao, and the rest had no idea what was going on. However, the university students who heard the commotion could roughly guess what was going on. The children had been kidnapped. However, just as the principal and the female teacher were about to step out of the small Wuzhen Primary School, Yun Jian came out of the classroom with her backpack in one hand. When she was in the classroom earlier, she had used her fastest speed to hide all sorts of blades, knives, and daggers from her backpack in various places on her body. The African leopard, ranked 5th on the international assassin ranking, was known for his speed. Yun Jian was strong and her biggest chance of winning was her speed. It was not that Yun Jian was not as fast as the African leopard, but to go up against someone like the African leopard who was not weak, she had to be fully equipped with all the secret weapons of a secret agent. Only then would she have a higher chance of winning. At this moment, Yun Jian had already hidden all sorts of killing weapons all over her body without leaving a trace. At this moment, Yun Jian was holding her backpack in her left hand. In front of all the university students, the principal, and the female teacher who saw her come out of the classroom, her right hand took out the latest SIGP 2106 Swiss silver pistol from her backpack. After that, She threw her backpack on the ground and put the latest model SIGP 2106 silver handgun into the holster at her waist without even looking at it. Her other hand held the last 2 butterfly knives tightly at the base of her thighs and pulled down her shirt. After she pulled down her shirt, in the eyes of outsiders, it was as if Yunjian did not hide any weapons on her body. No one could see any traces of weapons on her body. At this moment, Yunjian was carrying out a series of actions of a secret agent equipping weapons as she walked towards the principal and the female teacher. The speed of equipping weapons was many times faster and more accurate than the secret agents in the movies. Coupled with her indifferent expression, everyone present was stunned on the spot. For a moment just now, they seemed to have seen the king of hell who had survived among the corpses. However, before everyone present could react to Yunjian's actions, they heard Yunjian's indifferent words, which were like the master of the secret agent world, resounding through the classroom. In the next second, everyone present was dumbfounded and terrified. I said, that group of people's target is me. If you go, you will be courting death. The world of assassins and secret agents does not need you irrelevant people to participate. I will definitely bring him back. How dare you openly provoke me and kidnap someone under my nose? Even if he is the 5th on the international assassin ranking, he is now a member of the Grim Reaper's list, A. Chapter 2076. Yunjian's words were like the melodious chirping of a lark. Her words were clear and entered everyone's ears without missing a single word. Everyone present was shocked and terrified. African leopard, ranked 5th on the international assassin chart? Who was that? Biyao frowned and stared at Yunjian with Liang Shumin. Her eyes widened as she asked, what exactly happened? What exactly happened? Why did it involve assassins and secret agents? Who was this African leopard, ranked 5th on the international assassin chart? Hurry up. Principal, hurry up and call for help. Those 5 kids are sitting in an unfamiliar van. They must be scared out of their wits. The female teacher's face was really pale and she couldn't care about anything else. At the same time, Shen Qingjiang, Wu Zhizhi, Kai Xinyuan, and all the boys and girls who came from the University of Rivertown were shocked by Yunjian's actions just now. Some of them even realized that Yunjian's actions were extremely cool. God! Did you see that? That girl has a gun. Who is she? She's too cool. That gun is SIGP 2106 Swiss pistol. I've only seen it on the newspaper. I didn't expect to see a real gun. This came from a boy who was shocked and admired Yunjian's actions just now. I just watched a movie last week about female secret agents. It was exactly the same as what she did just now. So cool. Ah. If she was a boy, I would definitely fall in love with her every second. This came from a girl who was infatuated and shocked by Yunjian's actions just now. The crowd was in an uproar. At this moment, Yunjian had already arrived in front of the principal. She didn't look at the principal and walked out of the school gate in front of everyone. She shouted at the stunned principal. You don't have a car here. Take me there. Yunjian couldn't chase after the black van on foot. She couldn't fly, so it was naturally impossible. Hence, she had to find a car to chase after it. We don't have cars or vans in Wuxia. We only have tractors. I'll borrow a tractor. The principal was having a headache. People in Wuxia couldn't even afford a motorcycle, let alone a car. How could someone from a poor mountainous area own a car? This was also the reason why the human traffickers were able to capture them so easily. As long as they dragged the kidnapped children into the car, even if they were discovered, the villagers who didn't have cars wouldn't be able to chase after them. No need. Yunjian refused. It was impossible for the tractor to chase after the black van. So, when are you going to stop showing off? You clearly know that there are no cars or vans in Wuxia. You're just afraid that you'll lose face if you chase after someone on a tractor, right? Who are you pretending to be the savior of the world for? Even though Wu Zhizhi saw the scene just now, she quickly reacted at this moment and continued to speak rudely to Yunjian. Wu Zhizhi was probably the kind of person who wouldn't shed a tear until she saw the coffin. Yunjian did not say anything. After 3 seconds of silence, a cool sports car drifted over from afar. Yunjian had heard the sound of the sports car drifting when she said, "No need." Not long after the sports car drifted over from afar, several luxurious cars behind it sped over from the direction of Wuzhen toward the city. They were from New Cruise, and the one leading the drifting sports car was Qingyu. "Open the top and chase after someone," Yunjian ordered softly, ignoring Wu Zhizhi and the rest. Qingyu, who was sitting in the sports car, immediately opened the hood of her sports car, the sunroof of the sports car, and made a 360-degree turn in the open space at a frightening speed. This scene caused an uproar among the crowd. What shocked them even more was the moment the sports car opened its top and made a 360-degree turn at a shocking speed. However, he only saw a small and nimble figure running over there like a swallow. The owner of the small silhouette sprinted over 10 meters on the ground and leaped right into the sports car's seat the moment the sports car made a 360-degree turn. Just as the sports car made a turn, Yunjian, who was in front of the crowd, was already in the car. The car stepped on the accelerator at a shocking speed and left the place immediately. Silence. Dead silence. It wasn't until 30 seconds later that someone said in a tone of disbelief and shock, "My God." She jumped into the sports car when it made a 360-degree turn. If she missed, she'd be killed. Is that girl really a secret agent or an assassin? I've never seen such a terrifying woman in my life. She's even a university student. She's F***king amazing, eh? Chapter 2077. Yunjian, who had hopped into Qingyu's sports car, sat in the passenger seat and was taken away from the place amidst the crowd's exclamations of shock, surprise, and fear. The scene just now caused everyone present to be unable to regain their senses for a long time. One had to know how terrifying it was. If Qingyu had missed, if Yunjian had jumped in the wrong direction, or if Yunjian had accidentally fallen to the ground, the sports car would have turned around and run over her directly. Would she still be alive then? However, from what they could see now, the series of thoughts were unrealistic. It was because Yunjian and Qingyu's coordination just now could only be described as flawless. It was as if they had cooperated with each other thousands of times in that thrilling and terrifying move earlier. To them, it was a piece of cake. It was a tacit understanding that outsiders could not obtain even if they wanted it. Those who stood where they were, be it the principal or the female teachers, had forgotten that they had to call for help to save the child. The moment they saw Yunjian getting into Qingyu's sports car and speeding away, the crowd had an illusion for a moment. It was as if, as long as Yunjian was here, no matter how difficult it was, it would not be a problem. Wu Zhizhi, who was shocked by the series of events, could not react for a long time. What was going on? Why was Yunjian so skilled? She was like a special forces soldier from the army. She was so cool. The people around them were exclaiming, so cool, my God," and so on to describe the shocking scene earlier. Wu Zhizhi's face turned paler when she heard that. "Although I don't know what happened, do you guys want to check it out together?" A middle-aged man in a suit and a pair of branded leather shoes alighted from a luxurious sedan. He was dressed like a big shot. This man was the current CEO of New Cruise, Zhang Jifan. Zhang Jifan had changed his appearance. He was wearing a branded suit and branded leather shoes. Even the way he walked gave off the vibe of a successful middle-aged man. However, this didn't mean that Zhang Jifan was being extravagant and acting like a big shot. Zhang Jifan was New Cruise's living signboard. He was different from Yunjian, who was a hands-off boss. Since he wanted to run New Cruise on an international track, there was no way he was going to wear street goods to interact with international multinational companies. It would be strange if that person was willing to pay attention to him. Sometimes, wearing gold and silver from head to toe was a job requirement. Zhang Jifan was a living example. "I'll have to trouble you then." The principal hurriedly nodded. Everyone was eager to know what had happened and whether the children were all right. Therefore, after listening to Zhang Jifan, they all got into the luxurious sports cars that Zhang Jifan had brought. Even Wu Zhizhi and Shen Qingjiang were no exception. Perhaps it was because Zhang Jifan had rarely shown his face on television. No one recognized Zhang Jifan when they got out of the car and went after Yun Jian and Qing Yu in the luxurious cars. On the rugged mountain path, a black van was driving at the front. There were fields all around without any weeds or trees. Therefore, one could see clearly that a convertible sports car was chasing after the black van and was closing in on them. As the black van and convertible sports car passed by, the luxurious cars that could be seen from afar but could still be seen driving into the curve. Wu Zhizhi, Shen Qingjiang, Liang Shumin, and Mu Yu followed them. Far away, Yun Jian, who was in the convertible sports car, growled at Qing Yu, "Take the small path and flank it." Hearing that, Qing Yu took the small path and went over a steep slope right in front of the people in the luxurious cars to close the distance between them and the black van. At the same time, Wu Zhizhi and the rest who were far away saw something that shocked them. Yun Jian, who was sitting in the convertible sports car, pulled out a pistol from her waist and raised it single-handedly without looking, shooting the 4 tires of the black van in front of them from different angles. After 4 shots, the tires of the black van burst and it was forced to stop. Yun Jian did a flip and leaped onto the ground without waiting for the convertible sports car to stop. Her hand that held the pistol lowered naturally as she approached the black van fearlessly. It was like the arrival of the Grim Reaper. Chapter 2078. It was as if Yun Jian had done the breathtaking action thousands of times without a hitch. The people who followed her from afar had an illusion for a moment. It was as if she was meant to live in a world filled with bloodshed. However, for some reason, she had come to the ordinary world they lived in. Just as they were thinking about it, a few limousines stopped a few dozen meters away from the black van and convertible sports car that were parked closely together. "Don't come over. I'll go take a look." The principal got out of the car and walked towards Yun Jian. He was worried that something would happen to the children. However, if there was any danger, he would bear it alone. "Principal, let me go." The female teacher held the principal back and gulped. Although she was afraid, she still wanted to walk over. "You guys stay here. I'll go." Zhang Jifan stopped her. As he spoke, he took off his blazer and tossed it to one of his men in the limousine. The man quickly caught the blazer that Zhang Jifan tossed to him. At the same time, Zhang Jifan was already walking towards the black van. Zhang Jifan had not only developed new crews well in the past few years, but he had also been improving his own abilities. Although he might not be able to defeat a high-level assassin, at least he would not cause trouble for Yun Jian and could even help Yun Jian. At the same time, Yun Jian had already walked to about 10 meters away from the black van in front of everyone. She stopped and glanced at the black van from the corner of her eyes. "African leopard, I know you're in the van. Why don't you come out? Are all the assassins in Reverse Emperor like you? Cowardly? You're the 5th-ranked assassin in the International Assassin Chart. Is that all you've got?" Yun Jian stared at the black van. Unknowingly, she had already put the gun back into the holster on her waist and squinted her eyes. The windows of the black van were covered with a layer of film, so the people inside could not be seen from the outside. Bam! Sure enough, as soon as Yun Jian finished speaking, the car door was opened, and a 2-meter-tall, burly middle-aged man got out of the car. After the burly middle-aged man got out of the car, he looked at Yun Jian. His right hand behind his back was dragging a big hammer. He held the big hammer and dragged it to the ground as he walked towards Yun Jian. This burly middle-aged man was African Leopard, ranked 5th on the International Assassin rankings. Although he was 2 meters tall and was a heavyweight, the speed of the African Leopard was like that of a real cheetah, fast and agile. He was strong and fast. Even if it was the assassin or secret agent ranking, the assassins or secret agents who were ranked above the African Leopard would have to be 100% vigilant against him. Because the slightest carelessness could lead to instant death. little girl? The African leopard glanced at Yun Jian. Obviously, he did not recognize Yun Jian's identity. Although he despised Yun Jian for being a little girl in his heart. However, it could be seen from the way Yun Jian stopped their black van just now. This little girl was not weak at all. F***ck, kill her. The African leopard's eyes darkened as he ordered the men who came out of the van. Hearing that, the men took out their weapons. Wu Zhizhi and the rest who saw this scene were pale with fright. At the same time, Yun Jian stared at the men. The next sentence that came out of her mouth shocked Wu Zhizhi and the rest of the men. Even African leopard and the men who were standing beside him were shocked. The 8th on the International Assassin Rankings, Slaying Dragon. The 15th on the International Assassin Rankings, Xing Tian. The 29th on the International Assassin Rankings, Long Yi. The International 3S Wanted Criminal, Retired Sharpshooter from Country X, Flying Lion. The Reverse Emperor organization is really willing to pay any price to get rid of me. But it's a pity that you elites will die here, eh? Chapter 2079. Something unacceptable was happening on the road from Jianghu town to the city. At the same time, in Yiling's house. Lin Wei really treated Yiling's house as his own. After a year, Lin Wei moved into Yiling's house openly. Other than returning to an Han organization to deal with internal affairs, Lin Wei went to Yiling's house to eat and drink. He even asked to sleep with Yiling. Yiling's mother, Ji Qinqin, and father, Yi Datong, didn't dare to disobey Lin Wei. Ji Qinqin and Yi Datong heard from Yiling that Lin Wei was the second in command of a gang and was very powerful. Ji Qinqin and Yi Datong didn't dare to disobey Lin Wei because they were afraid that Lin Wei would take their daughter away again. Their daughter had been missing for more than 10 years. To Ji Qinqin and Yi Datong, it was fine as long as Yiling was fine. Therefore, Lin Wei also openly slept in the same room as Yiling in front of her parents. In fact, Ji Qinqin already thought that Lin Wei had taken advantage of her daughter. Now that Lin Wei wasn't in Yiling's house, Ji Qinqin called Yiling to her room. Mom, why did you call me here? Yiling didn't know why Ji Qinqin called her here. Lingling, did you do that with him? Ji Qinqin was too embarrassed to ask at first. What do you mean? Yiling frowned slightly. Her sky-blue eyes were very beautiful. That. Did he wear a condom when you did it? Ji Qinqin was experienced too. She didn't beat around the bush and asked directly. Yiling didn't know what Ji Qinqin was talking about before. Now that she heard Ji Qinqin's words, she understood. Mom. Yiling's face turned red instantly. Okay. Mom knows. Lingling, it's been hard on you this year. Mom and Dad are useless. If we were more capable, we wouldn't let you suffer like this. Lingling, I'm sorry for doing this with someone I don't like. Ji Qinqin said and tears fell down. She felt sorry for her daughter. Her daughter was already back home, but she couldn't stop Lin Wei from doing that to Yiling. She didn't dare to say anything. After all, Lin Wei was a gang member. Mom. There was no such thing. Yiling shook her head. No, Lingling, listen to Mom. Mom and Dad have discussed it. We'll definitely help you escape from that man. That man won't come today. Hurry up and run. Mom and Dad are here. Even if that man kills you, Mom and Dad won't let you sell your body again. As Ji Qinqin spoke, she took out a bank card from her room and handed it to Yiling with trembling hands. Lingling, this is all our savings. Take it and run. Run as far as you can. Yiling shook her head when she realized that her mother had misunderstood her. She wanted to stuff the bank card back into Ji Qinqin's hands. Mom, no, take it. Let's go now. Ji Qinqin seemed to have made up her mind. Without giving Yiling a chance to speak, she shoved the bank card into Yiling's hand and pushed her out. Who would have thought that as soon as he opened the door, he would see Lin Wei standing indifferently at the door? Ji Qin was shocked. Yi Ling's heart skipped a beat. Where are you going? Just as Yi Ling's heart skipped a beat, Lin Wei's pleasant and magnetic voice rang out. There was a trace of coldness in his voice that had never been there before. He was angry. Yi Ling's heart unconsciously panicked. No, I'm not leaving. Yi Ling wanted to explain, but Lin Wei grabbed her wrist and dragged her to her room in front of Ji Qin. He locked the door. After entering the room, Lin Wei threw Yi Ling onto the bed and began to undress. Did I give you too much time to accept me? So you want to run away? They say that women know their place when they're pregnant. Then I won't be polite. As he spoke, Lin Wei unbuckled his belt and unzipped her underwear. Chapter 2080. Ouch. 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 Yi Ling was still in a daze when Lin Wei completely penetrated her. How did this happen? Wasn't everything fine just now? She thought it was just her mother, Ji Qin, who wanted to have a heart-to-heart talk with her. How did it turn out like this? Yi Ling couldn't describe how she felt. If she didn't want to accept Lin Wei, she would have started to struggle. But Yi Ling didn't struggle. So when her underwear was pulled open, Yi Ling was completely turned into Lin Wei's woman before she could react. Maybe she already liked him. After Lin Wei violently penetrated her, Yi Ling reached out her hands and wrapped them around Lin Wei's neck. She buried her head in his shoulders. Her legs wrapped around his waist. Softer, she said softly like a kitten. Even her earlobes were flushed. Didn't she want to escape? Escape from his world. So Lin Wei crudely penetrated her. But now she didn't make a fuss. Instead, she cooperated with him. What was going on? Desire overshadowed his rational mind. Lin Wei, who had tasted something new for the first time in over 20 years, didn't hesitate anymore and continued to move. Ji Qin, who was outside the room, heard that her precious daughter was being forced again. She hid in her room and cried. Ji Qin would never have thought that she was the cause of all this. At the same time, on the rugged mountain path from Wuxia to the city, Yunjian's words carried a certain aura and entered everyone's ears. Wu Zhizhi, Shen Qingjiang, and the others who were standing in the distance all widened their eyes when they heard Yunjian's words. The first four were all international assassins? And one was a retired sharpshooter from Country X. Are these all international bigwigs? Why would such terrifying people appear here? Mu Xiaoxiao's eyes widened when he heard this and asked. Mu Xiaoxiao obviously knew about these things. After hearing this, his face changed drastically. What national, international bigwigs? Just because she said so, it's just because she said so. Wu Zhizhi saw that the people in front of her, led by African Leopard, had taken out unusual weapons. She didn't want to admit the truth. She stuttered and shouted again. But before Wu Zhizhi could finish her sentence, everyone saw that African Leopard and the other four were also shocked after hearing Yunjian's words. An ordinary little girl naturally wouldn't be able to recognize them at a glance. Moreover, Yunjian had only glanced at them once, and she had already exposed their backgrounds. Who was she? How do you know our identities so well? The African Leopard glared at Yunjian and asked. African Leopard's words directly confirmed their identities. Wu Zhizhi's words just now made her look like a clown, and her face turned even uglier. There's nothing that I don't know about internationally. In front of them, Yunjian didn't hide her smile. You, who are you? At this moment, the African Leopard had no choice but to pay attention to Yunjian. He had to pay attention to this little girl who they did not pay attention to in the beginning. Big brother, don't waste time on this little girl. Let's quickly bring them back to the organization and report to the boss. No matter who she is, even if she's one of the top 3 figures in the international assassin ranking, she won't be able to escape if the 5 of us work together. Long Yi, who was ranked 29th in the international assassin ranking, stood beside African Leopard and said to him while wiping his nose. 5 top international assassins against 1 Yun Jian. As long as she wasn't the international legend that made people tremble in fear, she was definitely no match for them. Is that so? Hearing Long Yi's words, Yun Jian's red arc grew deeper in front of Wu Zhizhi and the others. 5 against 1, is it? Do you know anything about the Blood Night incident? Yun Jian continued. Blood Night incident. Hearing Yun Jian's words, the 5 people led by African Leopard were stunned. Of course, they knew. Who in the underworld didn't know about the Blood Night incident? The Blood Night incident was the reason why Slaying God, who was ranked first in the international secret agent ranking, became famous. Back then, Slaying God's rise had shocked the world. The top 10 assassins in the international assassin ranking, including the top 10 secret agents in the international secret agent ranking, had joined forces to besiege and kill Slaying God. However, in the end, the top 20 secret agents in the international secret agent assassin world were massacred by Slaying God with her bare hands on that night. She went up against the top 20 secret agents in the international secret agent assassin circle alone. Slaying God won. That was the Blood Night incident. The Blood Night incident back then had shocked the world. Since the top 10 secret agents in the international secret agent and assassin ranking were all dead, it was only natural that other secret agents and assassins would replace them. However, anyone in the circle would see Slaying God as someone they would rather commit suicide than provoke. The Blood Night incident back then was a result of Slaying God taking on more than one person. Now that this little girl mentioned it, what was the meaning behind it? African Leopard and the other 4 panicked for no reason. However, they did not have time to think further. Yun Jian had already smoothed out the red arc on her forehead in front of everyone. Her indifferent side profile was facing African Leopard and the other 4. Her cold voice was like a reenactment of the Blood Night incident, spreading to everyone's hearts and stirring up a wave of fear. It's been 3 years. Since the Blood Night incident, this is the first time the top assassins have joined forces to attack me again. So, are you ready to die, eh? Chapter 2081. During the Bloody Night incident, the top 20 assassins on the International Assassin and Secret Agent Leaderboard had joined forces to go against Slaying God, who was not ranked first on the International Secret Agent Leaderboard. It was because Slaying God was too powerful and would pose a threat to them sooner or later. African Leopard and the rest were well aware of that. The 5 of them combined could not be compared to the top 20 assassins on the International Assassin Leaderboard. However, what did Yun Jian mean by that? It's been 3 years. Since the Bloody Night incident, this is the first time the assassins on the leaderboard have joined forces to attack me again? Did Yun Jian mean that there were assassins on the leaderboard who had joined forces to attack her before? Furthermore, Yun Jian had mentioned the Bloody Night incident. Based on this comparison, could she be the one who had fought the top 20 assassins on the International Secret Agent Leaderboard during the Bloody Night incident? She rose to fame in one battle, causing an uproar in the international circle. Countless business tycoons were terrified when they heard her name. The top assassin on the International Secret Agent Leaderboard, Slaying God? Are you Faye? Are you S from the Bloody Night incident? Before he could finish the word kill, a voice rang out. You can die now. Everyone heard a flat voice that they could not tell if it was happy or sad. Wu Zhizhi, Shen Qingjiang, and the rest could only see the flash of a knife from afar. They could not even see when Yun Jian had attacked. Long Yi, who had wanted to reveal Yun Jian's identity in his panic, had his throat slit by Yun Jian's flying knife. Long Yi was the 29th assassin on the International Secret Agent Leaderboard. He was also the weakest among the 5. Frightened by Yun Jian's skills, the remaining 4, including African Leopard, did not dare to reveal the codename that sent chills down their spines just thinking about it. Long Yi's death did not shock African Leopard and the rest. In their world, the death of a person was a common occurrence. Even if someone who had been with them had died in front of them, African Leopard and the rest would not be too shocked. Wu Zhizhi, on the other hand, was so shocked that she covered her mouth and screamed, "Ah! Ah! Dead. Someone's dead. Yun Jian killed someone." Wu Ziji's shouting and wrangling immediately attracted the attention of African Leopard and the others. Seeing this, Shen Qingjiang, who had a close relationship with Wu Ziji, slapped Wu Ziji in front of everyone. "Are you trying to get us killed?" When Wu Ziji saw that her beloved Shen Qingjiang had slapped her in front of everyone, she covered her cheek with her hand and wanted to cry. "It's just a clown. Now it's time to settle our score," Yun Jian sneered when she saw African Leopard and the others looking at Wu Ziji. It was not to save Wu Ziji. Yun Jian had always been clear about kindness and hatred. Even if African Leopard and the others killed Wu Ziji in public, it had nothing to do with her. She just didn't want to waste time. What debt? After African Leopard and the others guessed Yun Jian's identity, they were so scared that their faces darkened. At this moment, the tone of his voice was trembling with fear. "Reverse Emperor, why did they send you here?" Yun Jian asked. There was no answer to his question. "You're not going to tell me, are you?" Yun Jian took out 2 butterfly knives from both sides of her thighs and twirled them in her palms as she walked toward African Leopard and the others. With the butterfly knives, African Leopard and the others were even more certain of Yun Jian's identity. At this moment, the 4 of them were so scared that their expressions changed drastically. "Let the children go first." Just when African Leopard and the others were about to fight to the death, Yun Jian suddenly put away the butterfly knives and said with her arms crossed, "In the face of slaying God, even if they had hostages, they would not be able to survive." African Leopard and the others knew that very well. "They won't take the children as hostages, right?" the female teacher from afar asked fearfully. The crowd was nervous as well. However, before they could get nervous, African Leopard and the others had already obediently released the 5 kidnapped children. They released the children so quickly that it was as if they were afraid that they would be killed by Yun Jian, who was scarier than a river beast if they were too late. Seeing that, Wu Ziji, Shen Qingjiang, the principal, the female teacher, Liang Shumin, Mu Yu, and the rest were bewildered. Who was this Yun Jian? Why did African Leopard and the others, who were so intimidating earlier, act like obedient dogs now? They would do whatever Yun Jian told them to do. Chapter 2082. The kidnapped children were obviously frightened. Zhang Jifan walked over to take the children back one by one and handed them to the female teacher and the principal. The female teacher rubbed the children's heads. She was obviously scared out of her wits. However, the female teacher was a smart person. She knew that such a scene was not suitable for the children to continue staying. She was afraid that the children would be psychologically distorted after seeing the bloody scene. Therefore, the female teacher touched a child's head and quickly turned to look at Zhang Jifan. She said, "Can you please send someone to send the 5 children back to our town first?" "Okay." Zhang Jifan immediately understood when he heard this. He immediately nodded and responded. Then, he turned around and said to one of his men who was driving the limousine, "Xiao Yuan, send these children back to the town we just went to, and then come back to pick us up." The driver, who Zhang Jifan called Xiao Yuan, nodded after hearing this. After watching the 5 children get into the car and drive away, the female teacher breathed a sigh of relief. No matter what happened next, now that the children had left, it was easy to say, "We let them go. You should let us go too." African Leopard, who was not far away, continued to speak to Yun Jian after the 5 children left. "Let them go?" Just now, the 5 children were in the hands of African Leopard and his group. According to the bad guy's setting, shouldn't he take the 5 children as hostages to threaten Yun Jian and everyone present? Moreover, the people led by African Leopard were killers on the international killer list. All of them had high statuses. But why didn't they take the 5 children as hostages? Instead, they listened to Yun Jian and let them go obediently. That was fine. But one of the 5 was dead. 4 men actually begged Yun Jian to let them go. Wu Ziji, Kai Xinyuan, Shen Qingjiang, and the others who were standing in the distance were already in an uproar. Yun Jian was the same as them. They were all ordinary college students. Not to mention that Yun Jian was facing a few top killers from the world this time. Even if they encountered ordinary kidnappers, they would be so scared that they would squat on the ground with their heads in their hands and pee their pants in terror. Why did it turn upside down in Yun Jian's hands? It was actually these top assassins from the world. Beg Yun Jian to forgive them? What did she mean by the Bloody Night incident? At this moment, Mu Yu, who was good at thinking about the details, muttered to herself. I've never heard of it. Liang Xiumin heard Mu Yao's muttering and took the opportunity to reply. How could anyone present know about the Bloody Night incident? However, if they were to ask their father, who was a businessman, they would probably be able to find out what exactly the famous Bloody Night incident was. At that moment, Yun Jian didn't give the surrounding people a chance to continue talking. She turned her body around to face African Leopard and the other three. Her cold and indifferent face made African Leopard and the other three slightly flustered. Let you go? If you don't tell me why Reverse Emperor sent you here today, do you think you can leave this place alive? Yun Jian glanced at the four men as if she was looking at four corpses. There was a strange luster in his eyes, as if he was a king who ruled over life and death. African Leopard and the other three men shuddered. Looks like you guys are planning to keep your mouths shut. Yun Jian's eyes flickered. As she spoke, a half-smile appeared on her face and she extended a hand to Qin Yu. You, take out your newly developed poison. There are ready-made white mice here for you to test the efficacy of your newly developed poison for free. Yes. Qin Yu took out the poison in front of everyone after listening to Yun Jian. It was a small bottle of liquid solvent. However, when African Leopard and the other three heard how Yun Jian addressed Qin Yu, their eyes widened in front of Wu Zhizhi and the rest who were far away. In the next second, the four men, led by African Leopard, took a few more glances at Qin Yu and exclaimed in fear. Are you the world's top poison expert, Lady Poison? Chapter 2083. If Slaying God, the number one on the International Secret Agent Leaderboard, was a character that struck fear in African Leopard and the rest. However, African Leopard and the rest had never thought that they would meet someone like Slaying God. After all, Slaying God's mystery was no secret in the circle. Qin Yu, the wicked lady, who followed Slaying God, was closer to the truth than Slaying God. Unlike Slaying God, no one knew who she really looked like. Not only was Qin Yu Yun Jian's subordinate, but Slaying God would always get Qin Yu to do whatever she wanted. Hence, when people heard Qin Yu's name internationally, it was as if they had seen Slaying God in person, causing them to break out in cold sweat. Moreover, Qin Yu was the world's number one poison expert. Even if you walked a dozen meters away from her, she would still be able to poison you silently. Even if you died on the spot, no one would be able to find out the cause of death. Therefore, other than Slaying God, Qin Yu, the wicked lady, was the last person the assassins on the leaderboard wanted to meet. Now, the two terrifying characters that the international assassins and secret agents did not want to meet the most were right in front of them. African Leopard and the other three's expressions could not be described with just one word. It was the fear of impending death. Slaying God alone was enough to kill them. Now, there was the world's number one poison expert. Will you let us go if we tell you? African Leopard asked Yun Jian. Yun Jian nodded. Big brother, if we tell you, I'm afraid we won't be able to return to Reverse Emperor. Annihilation Dragon, the number 8 assassin on the leaderboard, said to African Leopard after hearing what Yun Jian said. It's still better than dying. Reverse Emperor wasn't our home to begin with. Boss only hired us to join Reverse Emperor 2 years ago. Moreover, Boss has assigned us to carry out all kinds of dangerous missions for the past 2 years. Boss must have known that we'd meet them today. Since Boss isn't giving us a way out, why should we stay with Reverse Emperor? Where there's life, there's hope. Reverse Emperor was unkind to us, so why should we be kind to them? African Leopard said, clenching his fists. After that, the African leopard seemed to have made up his mind to confess to Yunjian. Let's talk over there. Yunjian waved her hand and walked towards the track in the distance. When African leopard and the other three saw this, they also followed. Yunjian didn't stop until she was sure that Wu Zhizhi and the others couldn't hear her. You can speak now. Hearing this, African leopard did not play any tricks. He spoke bluntly and told him everything he knew. It wasn't until African leopard and the other three left with Long Yi's corpse in the black van that Wu Zhizhi and the others recovered from their daze. After he left, Wu Zhizhi, Shen Qingjiang, and Kai Xinyuan finally dared to walk over from afar. Liang Xiumin and Mu Shao also followed. How dare you kill someone just now? Wu Zhizhi shouted at Yunjian as soon as she walked over. This irrational behavior was very consistent with her identity as a rich family's young miss. Mu Shao, on the other hand, wisely chose to hold Liang Xiumin without saying anything or asking anything. The principal, the female teacher, and those who came with them wisely chose to ignore the series of events that happened just now. Yunjian ignored Wu Zhizhi while Qin Yu looked at the black van. It was only when it disappeared from everyone's sight that Qin Yu asked Yunjian, Sister Jian, do you need me to go after them and kill them? Kill them after letting them go? Wu Zhizhi was about to say that Yunjian was ignoring her when she heard Qin Yu's question and shut her mouth in fright. Yunjian, who stood beside the group, narrowed her eyes. Just when everyone thought that Yunjian was going to keep quiet, her nonchalant voice rang with unprecedented confidence and ambition. There's no need for that. It won't be long before Reverse Emperor, including them, becomes my subordinates, Chapter 2084. Yunjian had always been a woman of her words. Qin Yu knew this very well. Qin Yu nodded. Didn't you say that Reverse Emperor is an assassin organization? You want to take over the assassin organization and their assassins? Yunjian, what do you do for a living? Wu Zhizhi was so dumb that she could not keep her words to herself. Liang Xiumin and Wu Zhizhi were both young ladies, but Liang Xiumin was smarter than Wu Zhizhi and knew what to ask and what not to ask. Wu Zhizhi, on the other hand, never knew what to ask and what not to ask. Or maybe it was curiosity that took over, causing Wu Zhizhi to ask directly whenever she wanted to know the answer. By then, Yunjian had already turned and made her way to Qin Yu's convertible sports car. Just as she was about to walk toward Qin Yu's convertible sports car, she heard Wu Zhizhi's dumb question. Yunjian's lips curled upward when she heard that. Do you know why I killed that person just now? However, what Yunjian said surprised everyone present. Wu Zhizhi still did not understand after some thought, but she was a little afraid of Yunjian's gaze. Therefore, the words that came out of Wu Zhizhi's mouth were laced with coldness. Why? Because he's as talkative as you are. Yunjian suddenly reached out and slashed Wu Zhizhi's neck. Before the crowd could react, they saw the gleam of a knife in Yunjian's hand. Wu Zhizhi was stunned as well. When she came back to her senses, the gleam of the knife had already slashed her neck. Ah! No! I don't want to die. There was a swoosh. When the crowd reacted, they saw Yunjian cutting off a large chunk of Wu Zhizhi's hair that fell over her shoulders with the butterfly knife. That sound was the soft and crisp sound of a strand of hair being cut. Wu Zhizhi breathed out in relief. She was scared out of her wits. By the time Wu Zhizhi came back to her senses, Yunjian had already walked to the convertible sports car. The moment before she sat in the convertible sports car, she turned around and looked at Wu Zhizhi with a red smile. I don't think anyone has ever told you that nosy people like you die the quickest. Without waiting for Wu Zhizhi's response, Yunjian held the car door with one hand and jumped into the driver's seat through the sunroof of the convertible sports car. Qin Yu hopped into the passenger seat of the convertible sports car as well. In Yunjian's hands, the convertible sports car drew a straight line and disappeared in the blink of an eye like a shooting star. Yiling's house. Yiling's boudoir was filled with the scent of a man and a woman after making love. Yiling was tormented by Lin Wei and took a nap. Now that she woke up, she suddenly realized that she had been tortured by him. Ah! Yiling almost jumped up from the bed and then turned over. At this moment, she was naked and fell directly to the ground. The numbness in her thighs made Yiling prop herself up, but she could not stand properly. However, just as Yiling accidentally fell to the ground, a large hand reached out from the bed to grab her hand and pulled her back onto the bed. Trying to escape. Lin Wei's cold voice rang. It was still the same simple and crude word. Having known Lin Wei for so long, Yiling could tell that he would not say much to her when he was angry. Actually, Lin Wei was used to being a man of few words. He was like that to everyone except for her. However, once Lin Wei was angry, he would speak to her in the same tone he spoke to everyone else. Yiling's eyes darted around as she tried to explain. Lin Wei did not listen to Yiling as he lay on top of her. Open the door. Open the door. Don't blame Ling Ling, it's my fault. It's all my fault. Please let my daughter go. Come at me if you want to kill me, don't hurt Ling Ling. Outside the door, Yiling's mother, Ji Qinchin's voice of despair came. Just as Ji Qinchin finished her words, her daughter's moan of being violated echoed in the house. No, don't do this. Lin Wei penetrated Yiling again with only a door between them right in front of her mother. Chapter 2085. After that, Yiling was tormented by Lin Wei until she couldn't get out of bed. Ji Qinchin kept knocking on the door outside and had to give up in the end. Actually, Yiling's room was equipped with a spare key, but Ji Qinchin didn't dare to open the door. She was afraid to see the despair in her precious daughter's eyes. After Lin Wei finished eating Yiling, he put on his clothes and left the place. But before he left, Lin Wei helped Yiling change into a clean set of clothes. Where are you going? Yiling sat up straight and asked when she saw that Lin Wei was about to leave. I'll pick you up in 3 days. Lin Wei didn't say anything else. He left this sentence and walked out of the door. After opening the door, Lin Wei didn't even look at Ji Qinchin. His tall figure walked out of the Yi family's door in a few steps. After Lin Wei left, Ji Qinchin rushed into the house like a kite with a broken string to see her daughter. Lingling, I'll take you away. I'll take you away. I'll take care of you for the rest of your life. We'll still live without a man. Ji Qinchin thought that Yiling was frightened. She thought that Yiling couldn't accept it, so she rushed over to hug Yiling and take her away. A girl who had lost her virginity would be criticized even if she remarried. Ji Qinchin didn't want her daughter to suffer that. She had lost her daughter for 10 years. She must give her the best in the future. However, before Ji Qinchin could hug Yiling, she thought that Yiling would be in so much pain from being violated by Lin Wei again. Who knew that she would see Yiling's shy and embarrassed face? Mom, I think I like him. Yiling looked up. Her sky-blue eyes were sparkling. They were exquisite and beautiful, like a doll that had been carefully dressed up. They were so beautiful that it was unrealistic. Ji Qinchin was stunned. Huh? Then, wasn't everything she did before just messing around? Ji Qinchin was the kind of person who would support her daughter unconditionally as long as she liked it. Ji Qinchin's heart instantly relaxed when she heard that her daughter liked Lin Wei. To be honest, she quite liked Lin Wei, except for the fact that he was domineering. But if her daughter liked him, Lin Wei's domineering attitude would be good. That kind of man was the most loyal. H Province, W City, Wu Town. The 5 children had already been brought back safely. Yun Jian drove the convertible sports car back to Wuzhen first. After that, Zhang Jifan brought the people who had chased after the black van back to Wuzhen. The group of people got out of the car. They were still in a daze from what had just happened. Sister, we've all heard that you're the one who saved 5 of our classmates and even chased away the bad guys. Thank you. At this time, Xing Zi led the 4th, 6th, and 6th grade students to Yunjian. They tied up the bouquet that they had hurriedly gathered together and handed it to Yunjian. The children blinked their innocent eyes, waiting to see Yunjian receive the bouquet. Yunjian raised her eyebrows slightly. Then, she accepted the bouquet of flowers from the children in front of everyone. It's beautiful. Just because Yunjian said the words very beautiful, the children laughed happily. Although the smile looked silly, it contained the most innocent smile of a child. Wu Zhizhi dared not speak due to Yunjian's behavior just now. In spite of it, her eyes were glued to Yunjian as if she wanted to bore a hole through Yunjian with her glare. Just as Wu Zhizhi was glaring at Yunjian, the people around them saw Zhang Jifan, who had put on his suit again, walk to Yunjian and tell Yunjian in public. Sister Jian, I've already donated 1 billion yuan to CI Xiang organization as per your order in the name of New Cruise's director. I believe that the money will be distributed to the poor mountainous areas in no time. Hopefully, it can bring an improvement to the children's standard of living. A. Chapter 2086. Zhang Jifan's words were calm when they left his mouth, but when they reached everyone's ears, it was as simple as asking, "Have you eaten today?" But these simple words gave people a sense of surprise that brought them back to their senses. Wu Zhizhi, who was glaring at Yunjian earlier, froze when she heard the question. New cruise? When the children were abducted by African Bao and the rest, no one thought much about it. Why would Qingyu, Zhang Jifan, and the rest appear here so coincidentally? But now, could you be New Cruise's current CEO, Mr. Zhang Jifan? Muyu looked at Zhang Jifan with shock and surprise on her face. Slowly, her surprised face turned into a look of deep worship. Zhang Jifan was tugging at the red collar of his suit. When he heard Muyu, Zhang Jifan turned to look at her. Then, in front of everyone, Zhang Jifan nodded at Muyu. That's right. His every move and every word was filled with the elegance of an upper-class person. Zhang Jifan was now adept at being New Cruise's CEO. Outsiders would not be able to tell that Zhang Jifan was a street gangster. It was also because of this that Zhang Jifan was able to promote New Cruise to other countries. Oh my God, are you really New Cruise's CEO, Zhang Jifan? Although I've never seen your photo, I've always regarded you as the person I respect the most. I heard that in the past 2 years, your methods in the business world have left your peers far behind. In just 1 year, you stepped onto the national stage, and then, in just 2 years, you stepped onto the international stage. We're all proud of you. You're our role model. I didn't expect to meet you here today. I am so excited. Muyu stood before Zhang Jifan in excitement like a person standing before her idol. She could not contain her excitement. Zhang Jifan did not expect that someone would worship him so much. After hearing this, he felt a little embarrassed. How am I awesome? It's all thanks to Sister Jian that New Cruise is where it is today. I only look impressive on the surface, but Sister Jian is the real business elite. Zhang Jifan scratched his head, laughed twice, and then said. Only now did the crowd regain their senses. From the moment Zhang Jifan revealed Yunjian's identity as New Cruise's director, everyone was stunned and in disbelief. The mysterious director of New Cruise was actually an 18-year-old girl. Oh my God. If Yunjian is the director of New Cruise, how old was she when she started New Cruise? Liang Xiumin exclaimed. Wasn't the difference a little too big? They were just ordinary university students. Even now, when they had no money, they were still reaching out to their families. What about Yunjian? Could it be that she started a company when she was in junior high? Now that she was in university, her company was already officially operating on an international platform? Wu Zhizhi's eyes bulged and her face darkened, but she chose to remain silent. His expression was extremely ugly. It was as if she had gone to look down on someone back then and that person had flown to the sky to look down on her. Compared to New Cruise, Wu Zhizhi's father's company was nothing. Moreover, Wu Zhizhi had mocked her before, so she looked like she had lost all hope. However, that was not the end of it. After Zhang Jifan heard what Liang Shumin said, his thoughts drifted back to the past. He chuckled and spoke without hesitation in front of everyone. Sister Jian came to us who were living at the bottom of society when she was 15, saying that she wanted to start a car marketing company. We were surprised back then, but we followed Yun Jian's lead. Actually, it's all thanks to Sister Jian that New Cruise can go international. She knows so many top international figures that we can't even count them with our fingers. Most importantly, those people listen to her. See, I used Sister Jian's name to negotiate with those people and everything went smoothly. There's one thing those people said about Sister Jian the most, and I agree with it a lot. It's that she, Yun Jian, is a legend that will never be defeated, Chapter 2087. She, Yun Jian, is a legend who will never be defeated. This was the highest compliment given by the international tycoons, businessmen, and politicians. It was also what Zhang Jifan believed to be the truth. Yun Jian was truly a legend who would never be defeated. Whether it was Xinjiang town back then, Longmen City, Min City's military school, or the University of Rivertown now. Wherever Yun Jian was, there would be a legend. Knowing that Yun Jian was New Cruise's director, it was shocking news to Wu Zhizhi, Shen Qingjiang, Liang Shumin, Mu Yu, and the rest. Of course, her identity as the director was enough to shock Wu Zhizhi, Shen Qingjiang, Liang Shumin, and the rest. Now, Zhang Jifan was saying that Yun Jian knew so many international tycoons that they could not even count them with their fingers. Moreover, those people obeyed Yun Jian's every word. What was even more shocking was that New Cruise's success today was all thanks to Zhang Jifan. Now that they heard Zhang Jifan's words, if it were not for Yun Jian's acquaintance with the international tycoons, without Yun Jian paving the way, Zhang Jifan alone would never have the capability to lead New Cruise to the international stage. Yun Jian was the most important person for New Cruise to be where it was today. Wu Zhizhi, who cared a lot about her family background and wanted to compare her family background with her classmates and friends in school, had a dark expression on her face. Wu Zhizhi's face, which was obviously displeased after learning about Yun Jian's identity, was lowered slightly as she stared at the ground. Wu Zhizhi, who was initially blushing but now had a dark expression and was gripping the hem of her shirt tightly as if she was not going to back down, was now silent. Perhaps she was shocked by Yun Jian's behavior earlier, or perhaps she felt that her family background was not as good as Yun Jian's. Wu Zhizhi kept her head down, but she was actually so angry that she was about to spit blood. Some people wished that the world would come to see them when they were in the limelight. However, if they were slapped in the face, they would be like a football that was holding its breath, standing aside without a sound. Big brothers and sisters, my mother made mung bean soup for all of you. It's not much, but she said it's to thank you for saving me just now. Just then, a child dressed in dirty clothes walked over with a basket filled with a few bowls of mung beans. There weren't many bowls of mung beans in the basket, she said as she walked. This child was one of the 5 children who had just been kidnapped. In this poor mountainous area, mung bean soup was only taken out during festivals. Grab a small handful of mung bean soup and put it into porridge that had more water than rice. It was a fresh luxury. Today, the child's mother cooked all the mung beans. Her generosity was indescribable. The child's arrival made the few people who were talking just now shut their mouths. The child also obediently took out bowls of mung bean soup from her basket and handed them to everyone. The child was reluctant to eat it herself and gave all the delicious food to others. At this time, when the child handed the mung bean soup to Wu Zhizhi slapped the bowl of mung bean soup in the child's hand to the ground. Don't give it to me. I don't know how many people have eaten this bowl. There are so many bacteria on it. It's so dirty. Also, have you washed your hands? Has your mother washed her hands? I think you people here are so poor that you can't even afford to wash your hands. It's so dirty. Chapter 2088. Wu Zhizhi was already full of anger, and when the child handed her the mung bean soup, Wu Zhizhi's anger flared up. He really King sent himself to her door to be abused. After Wu Zhizhi smashed the bowl the child handed over, the child stared at the mung bean soup on the floor and licked his lips greedily. Big sister, it's not good to waste food like this. None of your business. Anyway, I won't eat the junk food you give me. It's all germs. I'm such a noble person, how can I eat food like this? Wu Zhizhi yelled at the child. At that moment, Yun Jian, who had been silent all this while, narrowed her eyes slightly. Noble? Yun Jian sneered mockingly. What? Isn't that the case? Wu Zhizhi replied confidently. You should be the one with germs all over your body, Yun Jian suddenly said to Wu Zhizhi. What do you mean? Wu Zhizhi instantly had an ominous feeling after hearing that. In the next second, Yun Jian turned on her phone and pressed on the button twice. Everyone heard the conversation between Shen Qingjiang and another boy from Yun Jian's phone. That conversation made Wu Zhizhi collapse on the spot. Qingjiang, are you really not going to accept treatment? This was the boy who was talking to Shen Qingjiang. Is treatment useful? Anyway, I'm going to King die anyway. If I can drag one down to hell with me, it's one more. Hee, I was King harmed by someone back then. This was what Shen Qingjiang said. How long have you been aware that you have AIDS? Not long. After ked Wu Zhizhi and confirmed that she also has AIDS, I'll ck other girls. Even if I die, I'll drag them down with me. Hee. You're really not kind. The girls who met you are really unlucky. I'm not kind. That's because I was forced. Ck. I ked that be tch Wu Zhizhi so many times. This time, I'll definitely infect her with AIDS. That be tch didn't ask for a condom when she did it with you? Tsk, I was just bluffing a little. Why didn't you obediently let me shoot you in? From the voice that came from Yun Jian's phone, everyone present could naturally tell that the person on the phone was Shen Qingjiang. As for who that boy was, no one cared. The main thing is the breaking news in this phone call. No. Impossible. Qingjiang, that's impossible, right? How could you? How could you? Then how could you be me? After hearing this phone call, Wu Zhizhi's head exploded. She looked at Shen Qingjiang in panic and shook her head. She was so scared that her lips instantly turned pale. Hearing this news was even scarier than being frightened by Yun Jian. AIDS can be transmitted through sexual contact, blood, and mother to child. In other words, he had sex with someone who had AIDS. Or some people would go to small places to donate blood. The syringe used to draw blood from an AIDS patient and then draw your blood, which would cause an infection. Or it could be that the mother contracted AIDS and passed it on to the next generation. These were the three most common ways of AIDS transmission. And the reason why Wu Zhizhi was so scared was because AIDS had a relatively long incubation period after infection. Usually, it would take 7 to 10 years for the infection to occur. After the infection, the survival period would not exceed 2 years. To put it bluntly, contracting AIDS was equivalent to having half a foot in the coffin. There was no doubt that one would die. Even now, there was no cure for AIDS, much less now in 2002. Now was not the time for Wu Zhizhi to be calculative about her and Shen Qingjiang being found out. She looked at Shen Qingjiang and trembled all over. She couldn't have been infected with AIDS, right? Shen Qingjiang suddenly heard the conversation between him and his buddy from Yun Jian's phone. He was stunned. When he came back to his senses, he looked at Yun Jian with a nonchalant expression. Since I've been found out, then I have nothing to hide. But why do you have the chat records between me and my buddy? Shen Qingjiang was bewildered. Why would Yun Jian have the chat records between him and his buddy? Just as he asked this, he saw Yun Jian, who was standing in front of him, wave the phone in her hand and say coldly in front of everyone. I forgot to tell you that I'm a hacker too, eh? Chapter 2089. Yunjian was a hacker? The crowd's expression changed when they heard Yunjian's words. She was a hacker. However, with Yunjian's identity as New Cruise's director, the crowd was not too surprised. After all, there were different levels among hackers. If she was just a regular hacker, it would not be surprising. Moreover, Yunjian graduated from the University of Electronic Science and Technology of China. It would not be strange if she knew how to hack. At this moment, the crowd was shocked that Shen Qingjiang was an AIDS patient. Shen Qingjiang, why you did it on purpose? Did you deliberately infect me with AIDS? You're worse than a beast. Go to hell. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. Wu Zhizhi was scared out of her wits when she found out the truth. She cursed at Shen Qingjiang. If no one stopped her, she would have pounced on Shen Qingjiang to kill him. Of course, all of this had nothing to do with Yunjian. She had merely overheard Shen Qingjiang's conversation with his brother. She was surprised when she first heard it. She did not expect Wu Zhizhi, who cared so much about hygiene and safety, to end up like this. Of course, Wu Zhizhi deserved to be punished for her sins. At the same time, she had to remind her that it was better for girls to have self-respect and self-respect. Otherwise, more sinister and terrifying things in this world would befall you. Wu Zhizhi was picked up by the car sent by her father on the same day. Naturally, Shen Qingjiang could not stay in Wuzhen any longer. Wuzhen was much more peaceful after the two of them left. Qin Yu and Zhang Jifan left Wuzhen on the same day as well. 2 days later, the money donated by New Cruise to the poor mountainous areas all over the country was distributed. Wuzhen and the few villages around it received quite a sum of money that could be used to improve their families' living conditions. Wuzhen Primary School received a decent amount of capital as well. On this day, the principal bought some textbooks and a new backpack for each of the children in Wuzhen Primary School. This made the children so happy that they all jumped up and down with their school bags in hand. Oh! Yay! We have new backpacks. We have new backpacks. That's great. I want Ultraman's bag. That little bunny bag is mine. The principal and the female teacher couldn't help but smile when they saw the children picking out their new school bags and jumping around happily. When Yunjian saw this, her eyes narrowed slightly. The next morning was Saturday, the earliest morning of the day. There were 2 more days before Yunjian had to go back to school. The 7 days of volunteer teaching in the countryside also came to an end on the weekend. The children still didn't know that the big brothers and sisters who brought them laughter were leaving. At that time, the children didn't have to go to school. She dragged Yunjian and the others to the hill where the sheep were grazing. The surrounding children were playing with a group of university students. Yunjian was lying on the lawn bathed in the weak morning sunlight. At the side, there were 4 or 5 sheep bleating as they surrounded Yunjian. The sunlight was very glaring. Yunjian was mesmerized by it. She closed her eyes to feel the weak and glaring rays of the morning sun. Suddenly, a black shadow blocked the glaring sunlight. Yunjian opened her eyes and saw a handsome face. This handsome face had sharp eyebrows, a pair of sharp eyes, and those thin lips. Coupled with his perfect facial features, Yunjian couldn't take her eyes off him. Yunjian was about to speak when Ce suddenly bent down and pressed her down on the lawn. His tall body pressed against hers and he blocked her mouth with his thin lips. There were a few sheep bleating nearby, so Liang Shumin, Biyao, and the others who were chasing and playing with a group of children didn't notice Ce's sudden appearance. They also didn't realize that Ce had appeared out of nowhere and pressed Yunjian down on the lawn. It was an action that could easily be misunderstood. After kissing the little mouth that he had been longing for, Ce finally let go of Yunjian and bent down to her ear. His handsome face that was infuriating yet infuriatingly handsome wore a mischievous grin. Xiao Jian, you're so beautiful. How I want to become one with you right here, so that you can never leave my sight. Ce's words made Yunjian blush. She was about to pinch him. At this moment, a sheep beside him bleated comfortably, "Ba." Then, the sheep shook its body and pooped out a pile of feces. Ce and Yunjian were beside them. The moment they heard the sheep bleat, Ce grabbed Yunjian's waist and rolled to the side, avoiding the sheep's poop. Just as they dodged the sheep's poop, a child suddenly saw Ce hugging Yunjian's slim waist and rolling on the lawn. The child clapped his hands and exclaimed innocently, "Look, look! Big brother is hugging big sister and rolling around on the lawn. Hee hee hee. It's so fun." His exclamation made everyone around them, including the children and university students from Jianghu City, turn to look. Chapter 2090. After avoiding that pile of sheep poop, Ce and Yunjian were exposed in front of everyone. Ce was hugging Yunjian's slender waist and didn't hide himself and Yunjian. Hence, everyone saw Ce hugging Yunjian and rolling around on the grass. A few university girls inadvertently caught a glimpse of Ce's handsome face and then looked at Ce and Yunjian rolling around on the grass in an extremely ambiguous position. They couldn't help but blush. Ce, who was discovered, didn't panic at all. On the contrary, he hugged Yunjian and rolled around on the grass before pulling her up. It was as if he hadn't done anything bad just now. Who is this man? There's actually such a handsome man in this world? Could he be her boyfriend? When the girls saw Ce's handsome face, they couldn't react for a long time. However, Liang Xiumin and Muyao walked over with a few children. "Yunjian, your boyfriend actually came all the way here to look for you. You're so lucky. You're not like my boyfriend, who only comes when I pay," Liang Xiumin complained. Liang Xiumin's boyfriend, Jianghu, was a gangster who lived near Jianghu City. He had met Liang Xiumin in Jianghu City. Jianghu was one of the people Yunjian and the others had met at the beach in Zhou Mountain. Jianghu's boyfriend was considered a weirdo. It was one thing for a grown man to come looking for Liang Xiumin and ask her for travel expenses, but he even brought a group of men and women with him. He even wanted Liang Xiumin to pay for their travel expenses, meals, and even the money for their entertainment. He was a typical gigolo. "We're already married," Ce frowned and explained when he heard Liang Xiumin say that he was Yunjian's boyfriend. When Liang Xiumin heard that, she chuckled and said, "I know." Then, she nudged Yunjian with her hand and revealed a smile that said, "You're so lucky." This time, Ce didn't take out her marriage certificate or the fake pregnancy test report. Muyu, on the other hand, was stunned when she heard Liang Xiumin's words. Then, she asked Liang Xiumin in a daze, "Junior, you have a boyfriend?" "Yeah, what's wrong?" Liang Xiumin didn't notice the displeasure in Mu Yaoyao's tone as she replied. "Nothing." In a place where no one could see, Mu Xiao clenched her fists and gritted her teeth as she spoke. Yunjian saw Mu Yaoyao's actions, but she didn't say anything. At this moment, Yunjian's hand was being held tightly by Ce. At this moment, someone tugged at the hem of her clothes. Yunjian glanced sideways and saw Lu Ying, who was only as tall as her waist, tugging at her clothes as she stared at her with her large, dark eyes. Before Yunjian could speak, Lu Ying spoke first. She looked at Yunjian and then at Ce and asked, "Are big sister and big brother going to have children in the future?" Lu Ying really didn't stop until she said something shocking. After he said that, the people around him pretended to cough a few times. However, Lu Ying really didn't know what was wrong with her words. She just stared at Yunjian with her large eyes and waited for Yunjian's reply. Yunjian blinked. Before she could say anything, Liang Xiumin reached out and gently flicked Lu Ying's forehead and said, "Yes, yes, yes. They're in that relationship." When Lu Ying heard Liang Xiumin's words, she suddenly clapped her hands and said, "That's great. Big brother and big sister are so beautiful. Big brother and big sister's children will be especially beautiful in the future." After Lu Ying said this, a little boy next to her added, "But to have a baby, don't they have to fight before they can get pregnant? My mother and father fought and I had a little brother." "Nonsense. My father said that to have a baby, it's fine as long as they eat and sleep well. There's no need to fight at all. A little girl with 2 ponytails stood out and retorted. But why did Dong Dong from the neighboring village say that as long as you kiss, you'll have children? He also said that boys and girls sitting together in class can get pregnant too. A. Chapter 2091. Regarding the question of how to have a child, the children all talked about it. A group of innocent children, discussing how to have a child, the result of the discussion really made people not know whether to laugh or cry. The few university students standing by the side listened to the discussion of this group of children and felt awkward for a moment. However, the children were completely unaware of how shocking their words were. Hearing this child say that boys and girls would get pregnant when they sat together in class, a 10-year-old girl suddenly burst into tears. Wah 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 wah. Then I've been desk mate with a boy for a year, am I pregnant now? Am I going to have a child soon? I don't want to wah wah wah. After this little girl cried, the surrounding girls were all shocked by the little girl's words, and perhaps affected by the atmosphere. One by one, they all cried out, "Ah? Does that mean I'm pregnant too? I don't want to be pregnant. Wah wah wah, I've also been desk mate with a boy for 2 years, will I have 2 children? I don't want to. Wah wah wah, Mom said that if I get pregnant before marriage, I'll be drowned in a pig cage." In less than 2 minutes, the group of children who were running and jumping around just now, all the girls stood in place and cried. The boys looked at the girls in a daze, not knowing whether to comfort them or not. This scene progressed so quickly that it surprised the group of university students present. Why are they all crying? Liang Xiumin looked at the scene in front of her in a daze, not knowing what to do. You won't get pregnant. Just when the group of girls was crying and gasping for breath, and the surrounding people didn't know what to do, Yun Jian's voice suddenly sounded. Perhaps this voice had a trace of the majesty of a king. The group of girls instantly stopped crying. Sister, is it true? Lu Ying wiped her tears, raised her head and looked at Yun Jian with a pair of big black eyes, blinked her eyelashes that were still stained with tears, took 2 deep breaths, and asked. Of course it's true, I never lie. Yun Jian's red arc raised, and she smiled faintly. Perhaps Yun Jian's words had a certain charm, the girls present really stopped crying. Although there was a small interlude, everyone had a great time in the morning and afternoon. Ce didn't leave at night and stayed at Lu Ying's house. Originally, Liang Xiumin and Yun Jian slept on the same bed, but Liang Xiumin consciously slept in the same room as Lu Ying and Lu Shi at night. Ce didn't do anything strange to Yun Jian since they were in someone else's house. They woke up early the next morning for the return journey. Hearing that the big sisters and big brothers were leaving, the children were already awake when the sun was still up. Putting on the big cotton-padded jackets they bought with New Cruise's donation, they stood by the road in Wutown to bid farewell to Yun Jian and her friends. The children's thin bodies were no longer cold, and they were no longer wearing thin clothes that were as thin as if they were naked. Although the children didn't know how they got pregnant, they knew that it was all thanks to Yun Jian that they were able to wear the big cotton-padded jackets, new school bags, new textbooks, and new stationery. Sister, will you come back to see us again? The children stood on the muddy road that led to the city in Wutown, their little eyes staring at Yun Jian, their eyes filled with longing. Yes. Yun Jian nodded as she looked at the stars in the children's eyes. Sister, you said that mommy will come back, right? Lu Ying couldn't bear to see Yun Jian leave, so she hugged her brother tightly and stared at Yun Jian with her little eyes. Yun Jian was silent for 2 seconds before replying Lu Ying, yes. She didn't know if Lu Ying's mother would come back, but she knew that she couldn't let a child's longing for their mother die. Sister, thank you. As Lu Ying spoke, she seemed to have recalled something. She took out a wrinkled old photo and handed it to Yun Jian with trembling hands. Sister, this is the only photo of mommy that I have. I'm giving it to you. Sister, you don't have to look for mommy on purpose. Just help me tell mommy if you accidentally see her. Ying isn't mommy's burden anymore. Ying can take care of little brother and grandma. Ying doesn't need mommy to take care of us. But Ying misses mommy. Little brother misses mommy too. He wants mommy to come home and see Ying. Sister, can I, Chapter 2092. Lu Ying begged Yun Jian in the most tactful tone she could muster. As she spoke, she handed the black and white photo that was so old that the face could barely be seen to Yun Jian with trembling hands. Lu Ying's father had passed away, her grandmother was paralyzed, her younger brother was still young, and her mother had run away with someone a long time ago. Her only wish now was to see her mother again. As for this old photo, to Lu Ying, it was the only thing she remembered her mother's appearance. Now, she handed the most precious old photo to Yun Jian because she trusted Yun Jian. She believed that Yun Jian would help her keep an eye on her mother, so Lu Ying still gave the photo to Yun Jian. However, Yun Jian took the old photo from Lu Ying's hands in front of everyone and then glanced at the people in the old photo. There were 5 people in the old photo. An old lady, a young man, and a young woman. The young man and the young woman were holding 2 children in their arms. It was not difficult to tell that the young man and young woman were Lu Ying's father and mother. The young man and young woman in the photo were smiling brightly. The man was handsome, and the woman was beautiful. Both of their faces were filled with happiness. Although the photo was old, Lu Ying had kept it very well. This was probably the best memory of Lu Ying's life. Yun Jian glanced at the young woman in the photo and returned the photo to Lu Ying. Lu Ying took the photo that Yun Jian returned to her in a daze. She was pleasantly surprised and disappointed. She was pleasantly surprised because the photo was back in her hands. Lu Ying would look at the photo every night and think of her mother's arms when she fell asleep. Now that she had given the photo to Yun Jian, it meant that Lu Ying's only spiritual support was gone. She was disappointed because her sister also had her own life. It was only right for her to return the photo to her and not help her convey these words when she saw her mother. Her small eyes rolled around twice. Lu Ying could not help but tear up. Mom, where are you? Ying and her brother can be good. Ying can go and earn money for you to spend. As long as you come back and return to Ying and her brother's side. All of this made Lu Ying feel despair. She knew that her mother had left for so long because she did not want her and her brother anymore. Is there no hope left? Just as Lu Ying lowered her head dejectedly and tears fell from the corners of her eyes, a hand touched her head. Lu Ying was shocked. She raised her head and saw Yun Jian's exquisite and beautiful face. I've already memorized your mother's appearance. Now, tell me your mother's name, and I'll help you find her. Yun Jian's words were like an arm reaching out for Lu Ying in a desperate situation, causing the 11-year-old child to burst into tears instantly. Thank you, elder sister. Thank you, elder sister. Lu Ying bowed to Yun Jian several times. She almost knelt down to Yun Jian. Lu Ying then told Yun Jian her mother's name and age. As soon as he finished speaking, the bus driver sent by the school began to urge the university students from Jianghu City to board the bus and return to school. CE also took the school bus back to Jianghu City with Yun Jian. Wu Zhizhi and Shen Qingjiang had left first, so there was an empty seat on the bus. There was no harm in having CE. When they had just boarded the bus, Yun Jian could still feel that Lu Ying was staring at her closely. Her small eyes were filled with hope. Seeing this, Yun Jian pursed her red lips. The second before she boarded the bus, she left Lu Ying with these words, I'll definitely help you find your mother. I never lie. Although Lu Ying was still a child, she had been very good to Yun Jian and Liang Shumin. She had even given up her blanket to Yun Jian and Liang Shumin in the beginning, even if it meant that she would freeze. The reason why Yun Jian could make her subordinates submit to her wholeheartedly was that she, Yun Jian, had always been a vengeful person. She would definitely do what she said. Chapter 2093. Yun Jian's words gave Lu Ying hope. It had been a long time since anyone had been so nice to her. Lu Ying had an indescribable feeling. In the end, the bus drove away under the gaze of Lu Ying and the rest. Yun Jian, who was sitting in the bus, saw Lu Ying and her brother Lu Shi chasing the bus for a long distance through the mirror. The siblings could not catch up with the bus until they reached a rugged mountain road. Lu Ying and Lu Shi's gazes carried a trace of pleading. At this moment, an 11-year-old and a 9-year-old had placed all their hopes and future on Yun Jian. They hoped that in the near future, their mother would hear their pleas and come home. The bus took the group back the way it came. The bus drove very slowly. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. At the entrance of Wuxia town, she saw the two old ruffians who had tried to stop Yun Jian and Liang Shumin in the bamboo forest. The two old ruffians were limping. Although they survived, it seemed like they would have to limp for the rest of their lives. Of course, this was their retribution. Yun Jian did not expect the two old ruffians to survive. In spite of it, Yun Jian was no longer interested in how the two old ruffians managed to survive. After the bus left Wuxia town and drove into the city, Yun Jian directly sent the information of Lu Ying's mother to the Kosha mercenaries intelligence group. It was already evening when they returned to Jianghu. The next morning, CE returned to an Hun organization. The next afternoon, Yun Jian and Zhu Huili had lunch in the cafeteria. While they were eating, her phone suddenly received a message. She took it out and saw that it was from Diani. The content of the message was very simple. She had found the whereabouts of Lu Ying's mother. After lunch, Yun Jian stuffed her phone into her pocket and told Zhu Huili that she would be taking 3 days off. Zhu Huili responded. She wasn't surprised by this at all. After calling her homeroom teacher, Miss Yu, to tell her that she wanted to take 3 days off, Yun Jian walked towards the school gate. Last time, Miss Yu had promised her that as long as she went to the countryside to teach, she could ask for leave whenever she wanted. Miss Yu didn't go back on her word. Hey, President, you're finally back. We've been waiting for you for the past 2 days. When he reached the school gate, he bumped into Zhou Huntao from the martial arts club. When Zhou Huntao saw Yun Jian, he hurriedly stopped and greeted his brothers before speaking to Yun Jian. Zhou Huntao's brothers were obviously stunned. Could it be that this girl was the legendary new president of the martial arts club? In the next second, Yun Jian's words confirmed their thoughts. I'll take 3 days off. Tell Mo Buffon to continue supervising the training of the members of the club while I'm away. After I return, I'll test the progress of the members of the club one by one. The martial arts competition was just around the corner, and it all depended on one's willpower. Zhou Huntao nodded at Yun Jian's words. After she finished speaking, she walked out of the school. Seeing that Yun Jian had walked far away, one of Zhou Huntao's brothers asked Zhou Huntao, "Huntao, is this the new president of your martial arts club?" At first, Zhou Huntao's brothers couldn't believe it. That girl was the legendary new president of the martial arts club, Yun Jian, who had directly charged into Dragon City University's martial arts club and beaten up Wu Ren. They thought that Yun Jian would grow up to look like a tough girl, with a rough and fierce body. But she was too King beautiful. However, in front of his brothers, Zhou Huntao proudly and confidently said, "That's right, she's the new president of our martial arts club. With her, we'll definitely get first place in this year's martial arts competition." Chapter 2094. Zhou Huntao's confident words caused an uproar among his brothers. Although there was a trace of disbelief in their hearts. Could such a skinny body really lead the members of the martial arts club to win the first place in this year's martial arts competition? But at this moment, no one said anything about doubts. The next day. Ji Province, Guang City. Guang City was a first-tier city located in Ji Province. Its economy was developing fast, and the people's living standards were high. Located in the suburbs of Guang City, there was a tall villa. The villa was surrounded by people holding iron rods. This group of people looked like ruffians from head to toe. They walked back and forth to the left and right as if they were guarding someone in the villa. In the villa, in a large room, a lady sat in front of a makeup mirror. She fiddled with her hair in a daze, and her face was getting more and more haggard. With a creak, the door was opened and then closed. This lady was completely unaffected by the door opening and closing. She continued fiddling with her hair in a daze, as if she was an emotionless doll. It wasn't until the door was closed and locked that the lady was awakened from her reverie by the sound of a woman's voice, which was as pleasant as the sound of nature. You abandoned your family and children, leaving your son and daughter to live a life worse than pigs and dogs in the poor mountainous area. Wang Suifan, have you ever felt the slightest bit of remorse? The person who came was Yun Jian. And Wang Suifan was the mother who abandoned Lu Ying and Lu Shi. When Wang Suifan heard Yun Jian's words, she suddenly stood up from the bench in front of the makeup table. She turned around and stared at Yun Jian in shock. Who are you? How do you know about Ying and Xiao Shi? This place is heavily guarded, and there are people guarding the door. How did you get in? And how are Ying and Xiao Shi now? Lu Ying and Lu Shi's mother, Wang Suifan, married the boss of F province's largest underground gang, Hong Tiniu. A woman who abandoned her family and children was the most disgusting existence in the world. But when Wang Suifan heard about Lu Ying and Lu Shi, she looked worried. You don't need to know who I am. You just need to know that your children are not living well. Yun Jian said. Hearing Yun Jian say that Lu Ying and Lu Shi were not doing well, Wang Suifan covered her face and cried softly, Ying, little Shi, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. After a while, when Wang Suifan calmed down, Yun Jian learned the truth from Wang Suifan. Wang Suifan didn't abandon her family. A few years ago, when Wang Suifan and her husband entered the city, they accidentally met the boss of the biggest underground gang in Ji province, Hong Tiniu. Wang Suifan was beautiful. Even now, her beauty had not been worn down by time. At that time, Hong Tiniu had used his authority to forcefully take Wang Suifan away. Wang Suifan and her husband were afraid that Hong Tiniu would hurt their child, so they lied to Lu Ying and Lu Shi that Wang Suifan had run away with another man. Even their grandmother did not know the truth. After all, with Hong Tiniu's power, if ordinary families like them wanted to forcefully go against him, they might not even be able to keep their lives. Wang Suifan thought she would never be able to go back in this lifetime. However, Hong Tiniu knew that Wang Suifan's heart was not here, so he had been locking Wang Suifan in the villa for many years, not allowing her to take half a step out of the villa. When she heard that Lu Ying and Lu Shi's father had passed away in an accident, Wang Suifan's face was lifeless, and her tears could not stop flowing. Don't cry, come with me. Yun Jian saw the situation and said. Go? No, I can't go. Young lady, I'm already very grateful that you told me what happened at home. I can't implicate you. Hong Tiniu is a ruthless person. I don't know how many people have died in his hands. I'm afraid. Wang Suifan was afraid that she would implicate Yun Jian, so she shook her head in pain. Yun Jian's eyebrows, which had just calmed down, suddenly raised slightly. Before Wang Suifan could finish speaking, she suddenly smiled. Looks like you have to leave even if you don't want to. When Wang Suifan heard that, she didn't know what she meant. In the next second, there were footsteps and shouts outside the door. Quick, quick, quick. Quick, go to Madame's room. Someone has broken into Madame's room. Not long after, a tall and strong middle-aged man with average looks kicked open the door. Seeing that Yun Jian had no intention of hiding and was standing there openly, the middle-aged man glared at Yun Jian and threatened. Young lady, you've got guts. How dare you break into my, Hong Tiniu's, room? Do you not want to be in the underworld anymore? The middle-aged man who had rushed into the room with a group of brothers was the boss of Ji province's biggest gang, Hong Tiniu. Ji province was the same as Zhe province, they were both provinces. Hong Tiniu was the boss of Ji province's gang. On a certain level, he was on the same level as Yun Jian, who was a Russian. When he saw Yun Jian's face clearly, he saw that Yun Jian was only an 18-year-old girl. Hong Tiniu sneered and said, Young lady, you're so young, but you've got some skills. You can actually avoid all the surveillance cameras and my brothers. But no matter who you are, you're going to die here today. As the boss of a province's gang, Hong Tiniu's aura was naturally strong. No. It's my fault. I was too bored, that's why I called her here. Let her go, let her go. Wang Suifan quickly stood in front of Yun Jian and said to Hong Tiniu. Hong Tiniu obviously wouldn't let Yun Jian die just like that. The way these beasts dealt with beautiful young ladies was usually to gang rape them before killing them. Wang Suifan was so scared that her face turned ashen. Just as the men behind Hong Tiniu were smirking at Yun Jian's pretty face and alluring figure, thinking that Yun Jian was already theirs, the men behind Hong Tiniu smirked. Yun Jian grabbed Wang Suifan's collar and pulled her away. After that, Yun Jian stared straight at Hong Tiniu in front of everyone. Her aura that was not inferior to Hong Tiniu's was on full display as she curled her lips into a smirk and said something that left everyone dumbfounded. Is this how the Jianghu gang of Province Ji receives me, the Rakshasa, from Russia? Or, Ji Province's Jianghu gang is going to officially declare war on Ji Province's Falcon Hall, eh? Chapter 2095. Facing Hong Tiniu, the leader of the number 1 gang in Province Ji, and his underlings. Yun Jian, who was only 18 years old, did not show any hint of fear or trepidation. On the contrary, she looked straight into Hong Tiniu's eyes and said those words in front of everyone without any fear. His words and actions were enough to make Hong Tiniu and the group of brothers behind him exclaim in admiration. But what did Yun Jian just say? Rakshasa? Ji Province's Falcon Hall? Wasn't Rakshasa of Ji Province's Falcon Hall the terrifying woman who took over a small gang in Ji Province and developed it into the number 1 gang in Ji Province in the shortest time possible? It was said that the woman's ability was invincible. Moreover, although Falcon Hall was a gang in the same province as many other gangs, Falcon Hall's ability was much more powerful than the gangs in other provinces. At least now, the gangs in other provinces would take a detour when they heard about Falcon Hall. They would rather take a long detour than fight with Falcon Hall. That was because Falcon Hall's ability was too strong. There were even rumors that Rakshasa would lead Falcon Hall to become the leader of the underground gangs in Country Z sooner or later. But today, an 18-year-old girl stood in front of everyone and called herself Rakshasa, the boss of Falcon Hall. Rakshasa founded Falcon Hall 3 years ago. You weren't even 15 years old 3 years ago, right? Are you going to say that you founded Falcon Hall when you were 15? What a joke. Big brother, this girl is obviously bluffing. Wait until we catch this girl and let our brothers take turns to enjoy her. Then we'll know if she's an imposter or not. He. The middle-aged man standing next to Hong Tiniu rubbed his hands together and smiled. He squinted his eyes and gestured at Yun Jian's voluptuous breasts from 5 to 6 meters away. This perverted middle-aged man even gestured as if he was grabbing Yun Jian's breasts. Of course, the middle-aged man squinted his eyes and fantasized about it from 5 to 6 meters away. In reality, he was not even 1 meter away from Yun Jian. It was me who had nothing to do, so I called her to my room to chat with me. She didn't do anything. Let her go. Wang Suifan was so scared that she lost her composure. She was scared because she was afraid that Yun Jian would be ruined by Hong Tiniu and his group of scum. It wasn't like such a thing had never happened before. When Wang Suifan first arrived here, she had met a young lady. At that time, the girl was about Yun Jian's age. She got along well with Wang Suifan. Later, when she heard about Wang Suifan's background, she planned an escape for her. In the end, Wang Suifan and the little girl were caught. The little girl had been gang raped to death by Hong Tiniu's group of scum because she had protected Wang Suifan's escape. Wang Suifan had seen the little girl die with her own eyes. She would never forget this pain for the rest of her life. Therefore, at this moment, Wang Suifan was afraid that Yun Jian would be killed by her. Moreover, he had died in such a humiliating manner. Since then, the number of guards guarding Wang Suifan in the villa increased. Oh, madam, why are you in such a hurry? He. Not only did this little brat cover for your escape, she even pretended to be the boss of Falcon Hall, Rakshasa. Just based on these 2 points alone, how could we let her go? He. That vulgar middle-aged man rubbed his hands and looked at Yunjian. His saliva was about to drip from the side of his mouth. Speaking of which, madam, you can only blame yourself for this. You said that we gang-raped that little girl to death because of you. Today, we don't know where you found this little girl from. Aren't you asking us to make a move on her? As the vulgar middle-aged man spoke, he had already walked towards Yunjian. At that moment, Yunjian's eyes darkened. She, who had been silent earlier, suddenly spoke up. You guys once killed a little girl who was about my age? Little brat, the word killed doesn't sound good. That little girl was too weak to stand up to the wind. After we took turns king her a few times, she died. Who can you blame? But don't worry, little brat. You're so beautiful. We can't bear to let you die. The vulgar middle-aged man had already walked within 3 meters of Yunjian and was speaking vulgarly in front of everyone. However, just as he stepped within 3 meters of Yunjian, a gunshot rang out. Unknowingly, Yunjian was holding a silver pistol in her hand. The gun in her hand was so fast that before anyone could react, the bullet had already shot out and pierced through the vulgar middle-aged man's head. A second before the middle-aged man's eyes widened and he lost consciousness, Yunjian spoke in front of Hong Tinyu and everyone else with an indifferent expression. Since you can't bear to let me die, then I'll have to trouble you to die, eh? Chapter 2096. When the crowd finally reacted, they did not see the perverted middle-aged man assaulting Yunjian. Instead, they saw a bright bullet piercing through his head and nailing him to the wall behind him. The sleazy middle-aged man widened his eyes and stared at Yunjian for 2 seconds with narrowed pupils. 2 seconds later, the perverted middle-aged man fell to the ground and stopped breathing after Yunjian finished her sentence. F***CK. This woman killed the 3rd leader of the Jianghu gang. One of the men behind Hong Tinyu shouted with his eyes wide open. The dead perverted middle-aged man was Lin Bulang, the 3rd leader of the biggest gang in Province Ji, the Jianghu gang. Lin Bulang was the 3rd leader of the Jianghu gang. He was lustful and spent every night with beautiful women. He did not care about the Jianghu gang's affairs. Therefore, Lin Bulang's first thought when he saw Yunjian was his perverted thoughts. Everyone was shocked that Yunjian had taken out a gun and killed Lin Bulang. At the same time, Wang Suifan, who thought that she would kill Yunjian, was shocked too. The young lady carried a gun with her. The villa was heavily guarded. If Yunjian could enter the villa without being noticed, it meant that she was not an ordinary person. Wang Suifan did not even know who Yunjian was when she said that she was the boss of Zhe Province's Falcon Hall, Luo Sha. However, the scene of Yunjian taking out a gun and killing Lin Bulang caused an uproar. Boss, this young lady has guts. She dared to kill the 3rd leader in front of you. Brothers, let's kill her. A man standing behind Hong Tinyu smiled happily when he saw Lin Bulang dead. However, he pretended to be furious that Lin Bulang was killed by Yunjian. The man was Song Qing, who was promoted by Hong Tinyu after the Jianghu gang became the biggest gang in Province Ji. Other than the boss Hong Tinyu, there were also the 2nd and 3rd leaders in the Jianghu gang. Now that Lin Bulang, the 3rd leader, was dead, Song Qing, who had always been dissatisfied with Lin Bulang's beauty, was surprised and delighted. Another reason was that once the 3rd master Lin Bulang died, the position of the 3rd master would be reselect. He, Song Qing, was determined to win this position. Song Qing was thinking of rushing forward to kill Yunjian before Lin Bulang died. That way, he would be able to increase his chances of competing for the position of the 3rd master in the future. Hong Tinyu narrowed his eyes and waved his hand at Song Qing, signaling him to stop. Then, he fixed his gaze on Yunjian. Falcon Hall's boss Rakshasa. Do you know the consequences of impersonating Falcon Hall's boss, Rakshasa? Hong Tinyu was a smart man. He tried to test Yunjian. He didn't have any real ability or an imposing aura when he faced problems. He was making a fuss over the death of a member of his own sect. How could such a person become the leader of the biggest gang in Ji province? I don't want to know the consequences. I only know one thing. Today, I will take Wang Suifan and leave. Anyone who stands in my way will die. Yun Jian looked straight into Hong Tiniu's eyes fearlessly as he said those words. Haha. You said you want to take my Suifan away? Then today, even if you are Rakshasa, you won't be able to leave this place. Hong Tiniu's face changed when he heard that Yun Jian wanted to take Wang Suifan away. Hong Tiniu waved his hand and shouted to his brothers behind him, set up the Tiango gang's inescapable net. Even if she is Rakshasa, she won't be able to escape today. The Tiango gang's inescapable net was well known throughout the country. It was said that none of the members of the underworld who fought against the Tiango gang had ever escaped from the Tiango gang's inescapable net. Wang Suifan's face turned pale when she heard that Hong Tiniu wanted to escape from the inescapable net. Who hadn't heard of the Tiango gang's inescapable net? It was a move that specialized in capturing the strong. Inescapable net? Yun Jian narrowed her eyes when she heard that. She suddenly put away her pistol and stood there empty-handed. She raised her eyebrows and looked at Hong Tiniu. I've never heard of the Tiango gang's inescapable net, but the inescapable net that you speak of that is capable of trapping me, I would like to give it a try, eh? Chapter 2097. A net that could trap Yun Jian? Interesting. Yun Jian raised her eyebrows. Yun Jian's words made Hong Tiniu slightly nervous. Had she not heard of the Tiango gang's net that was well known throughout the country? Was she not afraid? But due to his confidence in the Tiango gang's net, Hong Tiniu narrowed his eyes and looked at Yun Jian. He smiled and said to Song Qing, who was standing behind him, Song Qing, immediately set up the net. Today, I want her to be unable to escape. The net that Hong Tiniu spoke of was actually to wear down the opponent's stamina. When the opponent's strength could not keep up, the net would capture the opponent in one fell swoop. There would be a time when everyone would run out of stamina. For example, let's say you fought with someone. The first time you won, you immediately fought with another person after you won. At this time, your stamina would have been depleted from the first fight. Hence, when you fought with the second person, your stamina would be at a disadvantage. If you won against the second person, you would continue to fight with the third and fourth person. Then, when your stamina was depleted, even if the opponent was a child, they would be able to stab you to death. This was the true face of Hong Tiniu's Tiango gang's net. And Hong Tiniu was not stupid. Compared to many people before him, he was much smarter. If one thought that Hong Tiniu only found ordinary people, then one would be gravely mistaken. Hong Tiniu could afford to hire a high-level assassin, but he used this sum of money to hire over 100 low-level assassins from around the world. With over 100 low-level assassins working together to deal with one person, no matter how strong that person was, there would be a time when their stamina would be depleted. Hong Tiniu's net referred to the 100 low-level assassins that he hired over a long period of time to deal with one person. This was the Tiango gang's biggest trump card. Hearing Hong Tiniu's words, Yun Jian's eyes narrowed even more. Hong Tiniu. You can't do this to her. If you dare to do this to her, I'll kill myself. I'll commit suicide for you to see. Wang Suifan panicked. She didn't want to see another tragedy happen. Stealing her heart, Wang Suifan rushed to the side and smashed a vase in the room. She picked up the broken pieces of the vase and stuck them to her neck. Let her go. I'll stay, or I'll die in front of you right now. Wang Suifan stretched her hand that was holding the broken vase towards her neck. Suifan, you. Seeing this, Hong Tiniu sighed. Hong Tiniu truly liked Wang Suifan. Otherwise, he wouldn't have used his power to threaten Wang Suifan after falling in love with her at first sight. If Hong Tiniu didn't truly like Wang Suifan, after getting Wang Suifan, he should have lost interest in Wang Suifan long ago. Who cared if she left or stayed? But why did he order people to protect Wang Suifan? He was afraid that Wang Suifan would leave him. Suifan, put it down. Put it down and I'll let her go. Hong Tiniu was afraid that Wang Suifan would really take things too hard, so he spoke softly. When I leave, I'll take her with me. Unexpectedly, Yun Jian walked up to Wang Suifan in a few steps. She took the broken vase from Wang Suifan's hand and threw it far away. Moreover, I really want to see the legendary inescapable net of the Tiango gang. As she spoke, Yun Jian turned around and looked at Hong Tiniu and the others. Her cold lips curled up and she smiled faintly. A strange look flashed through her eyes, causing Hong Tiniu and the others to panic for no reason. Suifan begged for your life but you don't appreciate it. Don't blame me for what happens next. Hong Tiniu clenched his fists and said when he heard Yun Jian's tone that she was determined to take Wang Suifan away. Boss, the inescapable net has been set up. At this moment, Song Qing walked in from outside and whispered into Hong Tiniu's ear. Hearing this, Hong Tiniu laughed at Yun Jian. Then I'll let you experience the power of the Tiango gang's inescapable net. Even if you're the boss of Zhe Province's Falcon Hall, Luo Sha, unless you have an impenetrable body, how can you deal with the inescapable net formed by 100 low-level assassins of the Tiango gang? Hong Tiniu's words made Yun Jian squint her eyes. 100 low-level assassins? Hearing Yun Jian's question, Hong Tiniu thought that Yun Jian was afraid. The group of brothers standing behind Hong Tiniu also grinned. So what if she was really the boss of Falcon Hall, Luo Sha? If she was really the boss of Falcon Hall, then the Tiango gang would be invincible once they killed the boss of Falcon Hall. Just as the group assumed that Yun Jian was scared out of her wits, Yun Jian, who stood in front of them, smirked and uttered her arrogant words. You're right, I'm not going to let you go. A mere 100 low-level assassins want to block my path? Tiango gang of Province G, looks like the inescapable net that you're talking about is just this. Chapter 2098. It had to be mentioned that Hong Tiniu was indeed smart. If it was someone else, they would rather hire a powerful high-level assassin than use the money to hire a powerful high-level assassin to hire 100 low-level assassins. But Hong Tiniu did the opposite. In fact, although the strength of a high-level assassin was powerful, there was a limit to his strength. 1 chopstick was easy to break, but 10 chopsticks were hard to break. 3 cobblers were better than 1 zhuge-liang. These 2 proverbs were the same as how 100 low-level assassins could compete with a high-level assassin. Even Yun Jian had to be on full alert when facing 100 low-level assassins. But, why did she still say such arrogant words after knowing all these? Yun Jian's words were not for anything else, but because she wanted to challenge herself. Perhaps others would think that she, Yun Jian, was powerful enough to reach this stage. But to Yun Jian, her life had just begun. Endlessly challenging the strong, exploding her strength in desperate situations, that was Yun Jian's life goal. What she wanted was to have a fight to the death with those 100 low-level assassins. Sure enough, Hong Tiniu was quickly enraged. He raged, kill. Set up an inescapable net and kill her. After saying that, more than 10 masked assassins rushed in from outside the door, leading the vanguard to surround Yun Jian in a circle from different angles. Yun Jian pushed Wang Suifan away. Surrounded by more than 10 masked assassins, she fearlessly took out 2 butterfly knives from her thighs and held them in her hands. These 2 butterfly knives were given to her by Muing. Holding the 2 butterfly knives in her hands, she gently raised the red arc. Then, let me try and see if you, the 100 low-level assassins, are stronger, or if I am stronger. After her rebirth, she had almost retired from the assassin and agent circle. It had been almost 3 years since she had accepted a mission from the assassin and agent website. Today, the 100 low-level assassins surrounding her reminded her of the past. Seeing Yun Jian holding the 2 butterfly knives in her hands, the low-level assassins who rushed in were slightly stunned. Their pupils constricted, as if they thought of a terrifying person who also used butterfly knives. In spite of it, a dozen low-level assassins charged toward Yun Jian with their weapons in hand. Kill. Kill her. In Hong Tiniu's words, kill her directly. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, the assassins held their weapons and rushed towards Yun Jian. Yun Jian, who was supposed to be panicking and looking at the assassins around her, only indifferently turned the butterfly knives so that the blades were below her and held the hilts. More than a dozen assassins came at her from different angles. At the same time, Yun Jian raised a brow and shifted her legs slightly. Abruptly, right in front of Hong Tiniu and the others, she rolled on the ground and stood on one knee agilely with a slight lift of her hand. At this moment, she turned to look at the other assassins. She didn't even look at the position in her hand. The blade of the butterfly knife in her hand had already pierced through the throat of the first low-level assassin who couldn't react in time. One knife to the throat. This speed was so fast that no one present could react in time. This low-level assassin had already fallen to the ground and was no longer breathing. The other low-level assassin's pupils constricted. Just as they were about to attack Yun Jian from the side. They saw Yun Jian kick the low-level assassin's abdomen after his throat was slit. At the same time, she turned around and nimbly moved the butterfly knives at a speed that no one could see clearly. She flashed past the low-level assassins. By the time everyone reacted, Yun Jian had already brushed past a dozen low-level assassins. Her figure was clearly engraved in front of Hong Tiniu and the rest. After her figure flashed past, the low-level assassins all fell to the ground without exception. There weren't many people in the house. The remaining 80 low-level assassins surrounded the door and waited for the second attack. More than 10 low-level assassins died under her blade in 10 seconds. One low-level assassin was killed in 1 second. When Hong Tiniu and the rest in the house reacted, they looked over and saw that the low-level assassins had all fallen to the ground. When they saw clearly that the low-level assassins' necks, right below their chins, in the middle of their throats, were all stabbed in the same spot. The fatal spots of the low-level assassins were all in one place. At this moment, Yun Jian was already standing at the door and looking at the 80 low-level assassins standing outside. At the same time, she was stepping on the corpse of a low-level assassin who couldn't react in time. She held the butterfly knife with both hands and looked like an emissary from hell. The blade was so fast that it killed the low-level assassins without a single drop of blood on the blade. When Hong Tiniu and the rest saw this scene, their hearts suddenly tightened. In 10 seconds, she killed more than 10 low-level assassins. Her figure was like a ghost. Her blade was so fast that it didn't even have a single drop of blood on it. Just who was she? Chapter 2099. Yun Jian had used less than 10 seconds to finish off the first batch of low-level assassins who had rushed into the house with her butterfly knives. Her speed shocked Hong Tiniu and the rest. Stop. 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 I promise you. Hong Tiniu's eyes darted around. Seeing that the situation was not good, he made a prompt decision to stop Yun Jian. The commission for hiring 100 low-level assassins was not cheap. With 10 low-level assassins dead, the Tiango gang had suffered a great loss. If Yun Jian continued to kill, Hong Tiniu was certain that Yun Jian had the ability to kill 100 low-level assassins from the Tiango gang. Then, the Tiango gang would be finished. Such a terrifying woman, she must be the boss of Falcon Hall, Rakshasa. I'll stop just because you asked me to. There's no such thing as a free lunch in this world. Yun Jian held the 2 butterfly knives in her hands and walked towards the 80 low-level assassins as she spoke. However, before Yun Jian walked out of the door, Hong Tiniu made another concession. I'll let you take my wife away. As long as you let go, I, Hong Tiniu, will promise you 3 things in the future. As long as I can do it, I won't go back on my words. I swear on the name of the Tiango gang. Hong Tiniu's words made Yun Jian, who had achieved her goal, put the butterfly knives back into the tight parts of her thighs. Although the people in the underworld were all gangsters, they were the most loyal. even though they may be distasteful in some ways. Yun Jian heard this and looked at Hong Tiniu from the corner of her eyes. She planned to stop now. Remember what you said. After that, she beckoned Wang Suifan to leave with her. Wang Suifan was stunned when she left. She did not expect Hong Tiniu to really let go. Although it was good to use the 100 low-level assassins as practice, Yun Jian was not stupid enough to get herself into trouble. Although the Heavenly Dog Gang was beneath her notice, having one more enemy meant that she would have one more person to kick her when she was down one day. When a person was in their prime, they could trample on anyone and treat them like ants. However, there was one thing that they had to remember. If one day they accidentally fell from grace, then the people that they had offended in the past would do everything they could to make them fall into hell. As for you, who is in dire straits, you might not even be able to resist an ant. Not to mention a group of ants. Yun Jian knew this very well, so when she made a move, she either cut the weeds and eliminate the roots to prevent future trouble, or she would stop at a certain point. Seeing that Yun Jian had left with Wang Suifan, Song Qing was still thinking about the position of the third elder. Thus, he went to Hong Tiniu's ear and whispered, "Boss, do you want me to send someone to kill her? Bring Madam back." "Do? Can you do it?" Hong Tiniu pushed Song Qing away. "What about Madam? Are we just going to watch Madam return to that destitute countryside?" Song Qing asked again. "I have my own plans." Hong Tiniu shouted angrily. He kicked the door open and walked out. Yun Jian brought Wang Suifan and rushed back to Wuzhen Dali village overnight. When Lu Ying and Lu Shi saw that Wang Suifan had returned, both of them were stunned. Is it Mom? Sister really brought Mom back? Did we really see Mom?" Lu Ying stood there in disbelief. When Wang Suifan left, her younger brother Lu Shi was still young. When he saw Wang Suifan, blood was thicker than water. Relying on his family, he immediately pounced on her. "Mom!" After Wang Suifan left and her father passed away, Lu Ying, who was only 10 years old, took on the job of supporting the family. When she saw Wang Suifan, she was stunned. She stood there in a daze and did not move for a long time. Ying. When Wang Suifan saw Lu Ying, tears flowed down her face. She carried her son Lu Shi, walked over, squatted down, and hugged Lu Ying. Then, she cried bitterly. Yun Jian saw this and smiled slightly. Then, she walked out of the door and left some space for her mother and child, who she had not seen for a long time. Just as she stepped out of the door, her phone beeped with a text message. It was from Qin Yiru and the message read, "You're reading this from me. Xiao Jian, come home this weekend. Something happened at home, eh?" Chapter 2100. Qin Yiru did not mention what had happened in the message. Qin Yiru usually did not send messages. If she could send her a message, it meant that something must have happened at home. Yun Jian typed the word, "yes," in the text message editing box on her phone and clicked send. Then, she hid her phone in her trouser pocket and walked to the door. "Mommy, it's Mommy. Mommy is really back. Ying is not dreaming, right? Sister said that Mommy would definitely come back." Sister did not lie to Ying. Lu Ying's trembling voice rang out. There was a trace of disbelief in her trembling voice, but she could not help but believe it. Even though Yun Jian was standing outside the door, she could feel the trembling that came from the depths of Lu Ying's soul. After her mother left and her father passed away, a teenager took on the responsibility of supporting the family. She had to take care of her sick grandmother and take care of her younger brother to and from school. She even had to work in the fields, raise chickens, ducks, and sheep to support the family. This was indescribable for a child who was still 7 or 8 years away from adulthood. Many people went to university empty-handed and had to ask their parents for money to eat and drink well every day. And for a child from a poor mountain area, she did not even have the right to have a full childhood. After Wang Suifan and the 2 children cried and calmed down, they insisted that Yun Jian stay for a few days. However, Yun Jian insisted that she leave that night. Wang Suifan took the two children and sent Yun Jian on the mountain road for a few hours. She bowed and thanked Yun Jian as she sent Yun Jian out of Wuxia. She almost knelt down to Yun Jian. The moment Yun Jian left, Luing looked at her and suddenly asked, "What's the matter? Sister, will you come again in the future?" Although she had only spent a few days with Yun Jian had found the most important mother in her life. To Luing, Yun Jian was different. Maybe. Yun Jian did not give a definite answer. If big sister can't find me, I'll find big sister in the future. The teacher said that as long as I study hard, I can leave Wuxia and study in a big city. Sister, I will study hard. Luing seemed to have made up her mind. She shouted at Yun Jian. Yes. Yun Jian nodded. Then she left Wuxia. The next morning was Friday. The weather on Friday was very hazy. Dark clouds covered the sky, and the wind was a little strong. After December, the weather was gradually approaching winter. In this kind of weather, it seemed as if it would drizzle at any time. In winter, there was rarely thunder. Yun Jian wore a pure white down jacket, which made her complexion look just right. After checking the results of the martial arts club members' training in the morning, Yun Jian took the bus back to Longmen City. On the way back, he returned with Liang Shumin. Liang Shumin, the daughter of a rich family, was ordered by her father to take the bus home in the future. Perhaps it was because she had gone to the poor mountainous area, Liang Shumin's spoiled temper was much toned down. Just as she parted ways with Liang Shumin at the station and returned home, Yun Jian saw Qin Yiru with a white mourning cloth tied around her head and another piece of mourning cloth tied around her hand. Yun Yi was sitting beside her. Yun Yi was dressed similarly to Qin Yiru, but the difference was that Yun Yi had a white mourning dress draped over her. "Xiao Jian, you're back?" Qin Yiru asked tiredly when she saw Yun Jian. Mom, what's wrong?" Yun Jian asked. "Your grandmother passed away. She took a stab for your biological father," Qin Yiru explained. Wearing mourning clothes meant that someone in the family had passed away. Her grandmother was Lu Lanhua and her biological father was Yun Gang. Yun Jian did not feel anything when she heard that. Qin Yiru came over and told Yun Jian earnestly, "Even if she didn't treat us well, she shouldn't have passed away. No matter how bad she was to us when she was alive, it's reasonable for us to send her off. Xiao Yi and I went to the crematorium today and will bury her tomorrow. Xiao Jian, you should go too. She wasn't your biological grandmother, but we were born in the countryside. You'll be laughed at if you don't go." You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.